showings though, like key and who was coming in and out was an absolute disaster. It was
That
like,
makes me nervous.
there could have been 40 strangers in that house at a time.
You have to put it in
They were
there
like,
and lock
who
it
has
up.
the key? And then there was like 6 agents, and then it was like, who has the key? And I was like,
Yeah.
it was insane. I was like, this made me really uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a tough one. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. I have like 9 o'clock, is that right? Yeah, exactly 9. So welcome you guys. Thanks for coming. Super excited. We're gonna talk about negotiating offers today. If you're online, like feel free to like jump in and ask questions and stop me. I'm gonna probably like be facing the people that are here in the room. So you're gonna get a side view of me, sorry, but you'll still be able to hopefully hear everything okay. So for those of you guys, I'm Kim Sebrell. I run the Right Group here in this office. So broker owner of that. On our team, there's 4 agents. In fact, one of my newest agents is in the room, my son, Henry, who's learning the business. And I forget how much there is to learn when you're brand new. So it's very humbling to like teach somebody from the start.
I'm hoping to bring some of my kids along.
Yeah, right? Like there's nothing better than like learning how to do something and mastering it and then be able to teach someone that you love and like them benefiting from it for sure. So I started off just like all of you all, started off at KW, brand new agent, didn't know what I was doing. And I would say it probably took me about 2 years to kind of really figure out like how to be an agent. And then I've just learned tremendously since. And I think everyone in this room would probably agree, like, right, the more deals we do, there's something new you learn every time. So if you feel like right now you're kind of feeling like you're drinking from a fire hose, I think that's really normal when you're brand new. But it does get better over time. So today we're going to talk about negotiating offers. There's a lot of material. We'll cover the material, but I want to make sure we talk about examples and like ways in which you guys are facing negotiation in the field so that it's not just, just standard. We're really kind of like, how do you apply this information? So we'll kind of work through some of that. I thought maybe we would like introduce ourselves. If you guys want to introduce yourselves first, just so we can know who's in the room. We'll start in the room and then we'll go to Zoom. All right. You guys want to?
You want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Ellen Bird. I started KW in November, so not that long ago. And I'm like just at about 2 years in real estate. I was at a team before doing internet-based leads. Talk about drinking from a fire hose. I learned about a lot of weird things and like I learned the contract really well because I was doing a lot of deals, but I didn't learn how to run a real estate business.
So yeah, so that is an important part of like, and I meet a lot of people that are just realtors. They just buy and sell houses, but they don't really have like the business hat.
Yeah.
And so there's both. I think KW teaches you both, which I think is hugely valuable.
Yeah.
Because if you want to keep it going and you want to be consistent, like you need to wear both hats.
Yeah.
Which is hard.
Yeah.
It's totally different skill set.
Completely. You're not just answering your phone and doing the deal. That's one thing. And it made me good at the contract, but KW's really taught me how to be like, I came here as an agent. So it's like, how do you keep business coming? How do you make your phone ring? All those things.
Yeah. When I focused on just being a really good realtor, my business was this. It was much more peaks and valleys. Like I do really well. And then when the business would all close, I'd be like, oops, there's nothing left. And then I'd be doing it, building it back up again and then having a lot of business. And then, so the more I've gotten business focused, the more it's kind of evened out. I love that.
That's awesome. So I came in July, I think. I've been in the business since 2017. I've always been a solo agent. So just trying to be the best realtor I can be. But I was at a small boutique place and then a bigger place. And I still just felt like there must be something these KW agents know that I want to, I wanted more training to see what I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
And I'm the same way, or it goes like that. So I'm doing well this year. So I'm trying to be a bit more business mindset.
Consistency. Yeah. I think all of us can have like a great month or great deal, but that consistency that's so I think hard to build into our real estate business. So I love hearing that's something both of you guys are looking for.
My name's Henry Sebrell. I'm also with the Right Group. I am Kim's son.
Sorry, not sorry.
I got my license back at the end of December, so I literally started at the beginning of 2025. Been a really interesting couple of months. I've learned a lot about just myself and learning to be more confident around clients and just people that I interact with over the phone or text or whatever the case may be. It's just been a lot of learning and definitely a lot of ups and downs and questioning yourself. But I feel like the more I do it, the better I get every day. So I think it's just understanding that there's going to be bumps in the road, and that if you really focus on what the goal is and kind of setting some goals for yourself, I think it makes it a lot easier. So yeah, just continuing to persevere through the tough times and knowing that you know things are going to get better in the near future. The beginning is tougher for this business. So.
Yeah, I think that like our big goal is always like write a contract, right?
Mhm.
Something under contract, a closing. And I think when you're brand new, like for me, I'll just be honest, because it took me like 6 months to get my first deal because I didn't have like any way to get leads other than my own database and did people need to move? And like, it just took a while to find people. So I think that it's really important to set weekly goals if you're brand new and you don't have that closing yet to be that marker of success. What are the other things you're doing that kind of get you closer and closer to putting something under contract? And I think a lot of times when we're looking at our goals and we think about, I just need a piece of business, I need a piece of business, it's like you can't find it anywhere. Right. It's like if people like smell it on you or something. So like, I think it is really important to have those little goals, like, oh, I'm going to meet 5 people this week, or I'm going to have like 5 really substantial conversations about real estate, or I'm going to send 5 CMAs. I like the number 5. You could do 10, whatever you want, but like something that's doable that you can attain each week so you can feel some success. And so that you can kind of start building into that, like when you do get a contract, but there's all these other pieces that come before it. Hey, for those of you guys who are online, do you guys want to introduce yourselves? Anybody want to jump in?
I can. I'm Alexis Payton. I've been with Keller Williams since last June, I believe. And before that, I was with another brokerage. And I wasn't learning anything. So very grateful to be at Keller Williams and get all the learning education.
Awesome. Be a sponge. Yeah. Well, great to have you. Anybody else online want to say hi?
Hi, Kim. This is Riley. I joined Keller Williams. I started coming to the office with Mindy. And the first time I came, I loved the energy. I came for a sales meeting and they were going over the book. I can't remember what the name of it was. But anyway, I just love the way that everyone was such a team. And I learned so much from the first time I walked in. Um, and yeah, I got my license in July. So I'm enjoying the Ignite and learning from all of you.
Yeah, there is a wealth of knowledge in this office to learn from. And one of the things, and you kind of alluded to this, Riley, which I love about KW, is that we are a family. There is enough business for everyone. Like we are not in direct competition with one another. I mean, very rarely you might be, very rarely, right? Maybe you go up against another agent in the office for a listing, or you guys both put an offer in for a house. But for the most part, there's just enough business out there for everyone. There's a lot of different clients out there with a lot of different personalities, and there's a lot of agents with a lot of different personalities, and they'll make a match, right? So like you can be the most excellent agent, I can be the most excellent agent, and clients will just pick someone that they feel most comfortable with. And there's just not enough business. And I love that. I think that's what makes Keller Williams so great, is that we do really help each other. That's the point of it. Like, right, the better we all are, I think that's just a win for real estate in general in Richmond market. Like I want everyone to be the best realtor they can be. I don't know about you guys, but like if I'm negotiating, we're talking about negotiating today, and there's a good agent on the other side, it's going to go way better. Right? The deal always goes better if there's a really highly trained, skilled agent on the other side. So, and you guys, Riley was in my bold class, or my bold group. So it was great to have you, Riley.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'll be in the office shortly too. I'm just home with contractors right now.
Gotcha. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, good morning. This is Burnett.
Hey, Burnett.
Hey, I have been with Keller Williams. I joined in 2021, but every chance I get to get on any of these training classes, I take advantage of it. In addition to being business focused, I'm learning focused. So I always feel that I can pick up something new, a new nugget when I can jump on some of these classes. So that's why I'm here. And Kim, you probably won't remember this, but the very first sales meeting that I was invited to, this was before I joined. I ended up joining that same day, but I did have a conversation with you, and I asked you what advice would you give a new agent, and you said to me to get to know as many agents in the office, pull information and ideas from them. Everybody does it differently, but find my own niche. And that has stuck with me. That was one of the first conversations with an agent at Keller Williams that I had, and it was with you. So I appreciate that. And thanks for all of the information you always are free to share and open to share with us.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That makes me really happy to hear. And that's so true. I can tell you guys when I joined, and I know that some of you guys, maybe it's hard to get into the office, and no shame in getting on Zoom, but I will say, like, come to the office. Like, if you want to be a successful realtor, show up in the office, be here, meet people, talk to people. There's just conversations and opportunities that happen when you're in person, that just don't happen when you're on Zoom. This is such a solitary business. Take every opportunity not to be alone. That makes a huge difference. And other agents, even just like being around somebody who's being successful, like their energy will just wear off on you. If you hear someone's having success, for me, that I'm like, okay, if I'm not and they are, that means there's opportunity that I'm not seeing somewhere. Like, it's not just a bad market. It's just I'm maybe not doing what I need to be doing. It's like that kick in the pants sometimes. So, and I will also add too, you made a great point as well about attending Ignite over and over. I probably went to Ignite for almost 3 years straight. So if there was an agent that was teaching and I was like, ooh, that person's really successful and I want to know what they're doing, like I would go to hear what their advice was or how they were handling things. And everyone is different. So, right, even though material's the same, I guarantee I haven't been to some of the other this session, but I'm guessing everyone has their own flair and their own advice and how they do business. And you start figuring out which one feels right for you. And it really is super helpful. That's great advice to kind of come to more. So glad to have you. Anybody else online? I can't see how many people are online, so you can just jump in.
Hi, I'm Marissa. I've been with Keller Williams um since last year. I transferred over from the Midlothian office to the Richmond West office. So I've been at this office since January and I am loving it.
Oh, well, good. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Anybody else online?
Good morning, it's Peggy. How are y'all today?
Hi, Peggy.
I just wanted to tune in because I just want to learn as much as I can from you, Kim.
Oh, awesome. We're happy to have you.
Yeah. So yeah, I've done Ignite at least 3 times, if not more. Any chance I get to jump in on class, it's always helpful. So I
Mhm.
advise everybody to do the same because I've learned something different from every class that I've taken for the last 3 years. So
Yeah. I feel like whenever business isn't going well, you always go back to the basics. And it's like we forget the basics. We always want to do all these fancy things. The more we build our business, and then we just go back to doing the basics, like having conversations with people or being relationship or just doing those things that really help us to grow. It's a great reminder. All right. I think we have one more person join us in person, so I'll let you introduce yourself too.
Hi, I'm Mara Jacobs, and I joined Keller Williams maybe like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, Brandon, we love it.
Yeah.
Well, welcome.
Thank
Are you new to
you.
real estate or just switching brokerages?
I'm new. I started in January. I was along in Foster for a little bit, and then I switched over here.
Awesome.
So yeah, really excited.
We're happy to have you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Did I miss anyone online? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you all off.
Hi, Kim. I'm here. My name is Taylor. I recently got my license in December, so I'm fairly new to real estate, also new to Keller Williams. And yeah, that's it.
So I feel like we've got a good mix of like some like brand new people, some people that have got like a year or two of experience or 3 or 4. So hopefully we'll have some good conversation today. So let's get started. All right. Yeah. Don't call people you're not supposed to call. I think this is also on every training at the beginning of every training. So I'll let you guys read through that. We're not going to talk about all of this. All right. So you guys have been, oh shoot, I wonder if I can move that. Is that okay to,
Minimize it.
huh?
You can minimize it.
Yeah, let me do that really quick. Just so. There we go. Okay. So you guys have been in class learning a lot. So we are far along here. Class number 18, negotiating offers. And I love negotiating. And we're going to talk through like what negotiation means, some different tactics, some different examples of how to negotiate. Good news is all of us already know how to negotiate, right? We do it all the time. We just don't think about it. So we're going to talk a lot about that. This is going to be the 3 Ps of negotiation. If you guys haven't heard that before, it's some different tips. And we'll talk through the daily success system before we leave. All right, so negotiating is not something to be avoided or feared. It's an everyday part of life. How's that true? Like, how do you guys negotiate right now in your life?
Kids.
Yes.
Do your chores, eat your dinner, do the thing, right? You gotta make them.
Oh my gosh.
Make them believe it's their idea.
So true. That was my first one. I was kind of like,
Sometimes you have to make them think it's their
Yes.
idea.
yes. Do you guys negotiate with yourself? The alarm goes off in the morning and you're like, you know what? I don't feel like getting up right now. I'm gonna let myself sleep 5 more minutes and I promise I'm gonna get up and then I'm gonna just hustle extra fast this morning. Right? We constantly are negotiating. Has anyone bought a car recently? No.
Thank God. Work on something.
So what is it that you guys think, like, I feel like some people think negotiating is kind of like a bad word. Or it is a bad connotation, right? Like it's a little bit like unsavory, right? So I have some clients who feel that way. They don't want to negotiate. Do you guys ever have clients who don't want to negotiate? They feel uncomfortable with it. Yeah. And
And so
so
that's on the person on the other side too.
it does.
Like if they're being a bully or, yeah.
Yes. So one of the things, and it doesn't say this in here, but one of the things that I want to be really clear on too, because they're saying negotiating, is that I feel like as agents, we're more the facilitator. It's our clients making the decision, which is a lot of the negotiating too, right? So they're making decisions, we're just helping them strategize and figure things out. Yes. So, so negotiation. So in negotiation, when we think about negotiating, what are some of the Y2C, the Y4C2Ts? And that's the Keller Williams, right? Those are our kind of like key values. What do you think are the ones that kind of come to mind when you think of negotiating?
I say like something I talk to my clients about like super early on the process is win-win. Like that is like one of the first things in the buyer consult we talk about. It's like if you think you're going to come and bulldoze the other side, this isn't going to work. I mean, you have someone selling something they really like, you have someone potentially or they want money out of or whatever it might be, or you have a buyer who's like, this is a big deal to them, or it's an investment or whatever. Like you have to be thinking about win-win.
Right. I agree. And I think, and I love that you say that you do that in your initial consult. So if you have someone that likes to do a win-lose where they're going to win and they want other people to lose, because that is, some people have that mentality, would they be a good fit for you then? Would you be comfortable working with them?
So I've dealt with that before and it was like, it's too late at that point. I mean, you've been working with them. You don't realize that that's how they're going to go into the negotiation, right? And it's your client and it's going great. And then they're just like, well, they can't win. Like they literally said, well, if we do that, they win. So no, I want it to be this. And it's like, oh, wait.
I don't think people are, at least I know people that I've talked to about it. I don't think they're coming from a malicious point. I just think they think that's what we're doing. They think that might just be what we do. Like, it's like, it's a deal, right? We're trying to get a deal or and it's like,
oh, this is the
their head, they want to feel like they want.
So what this is like an emotion kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think let's talk about that as we talk through some examples, because I do think that clients can get stuck feeling like they're stuck on something that literally is just in their head. They're stuck on a $5,000, or it can be even $1,000 difference. And they're just like going to hold their ground just to hold their ground and prove a point, and then lose a house. And this is the advice I give all my clients, which is that the agent and the person living in the house don't come with the house, right? Those people have nothing to do with that house in the end. So don't make it about them. Like, that's the best advice I can give buyers. We had someone recently who got stuck on that, and he had to he just let a good house go. And I think now he's like, hey, wait a minute. Why did I do that? It's like, well, you know, like he let that kind of emotion. Are there any other things in here that you feel like might have to do with, and just so we can go over the win-win to me means that, right? In this market right now, nobody's coming away feeling super victorious. They're like, if you have a good deal, it's a balanced deal. It feels like everyone gets a little bit of what they want and they have to give a little bit too. And I feel like that's where our market is right now. And I feel like actually more of the deals I have right now have maybe been a little bit more leaning towards the buyer. So I don't know if you guys would agree. And of course, that's across markets, right? Like there's lots of markets where it's still a little seller favorite. But I think still the win-win. And again, too, a win-win, I think a lot of us think about that as a contract when we write a contract and we're negotiating that first. So if you win at the beginning with your contract and the other side feels like they're losing, what happens is you're walking through that contract.
Not good, great.
It's going to be a disaster. Yeah. And no one's going to win, right? Because everyone feels like they're going to balance it out at some point. Like, okay, now we're going to be, if you got what you wanted with the contract, now on the home inspection, we're not going to give you what you want now, right? So it can become really contentious. And our job as agents, I think our number one job is to remove the contention and the heat from a deal, right? It's our job to move things along, get our client what they want, keep emotions and that energy out of the deal. Any other things in there that you feel like might be good for negotiation?
Communication.
James. Yeah, seek first to understand. Yes. So that doesn't say like have your feelings. Or, right. So it's like having really good, we're going to talk about this, having really good conversations, communicating really well. And that's communication agent to agent, client to agent, right? Everyone, and kind of prepping your clients in advance for what could be coming. Exactly. Those are the two that I felt like were probably important. And then I think the integrity, do the right thing, kind of fits in with negotiating. So one of the things about negotiating, and it's so interesting, like if you watch like a movie, can't think of one right now, but just, you know, a movie where it was like a very business focused and like one person's winning and the other person's losing. And we see that a lot. You know, that's what real negotiating is, like heavy hitting, like I'm going to, you know, stomp this other business out or this other company out. Or, and I think that like doing some backhanded things sometimes come along with what people think of with negotiating. So just remember, in real estate, we have to be honest. So there's no like doing something illegal or lying to the other side at all. Pretending you have other offers when you don't. You know, making up something that's it's just not true. So we have to be honest. The one thing I will say though, does anywhere in our ethics say that things have to be fair? It does not. And this is a hard thing for people because I'm a fairness police. Like I like things to be fair, but real estate deals, they're not always fair. But you have to be honest. So just kind of keep that in mind. Does anyone have any questions about that? Because I think when I say that, a lot of people get really ruffled.
So I had a client recently that they were on the buy side and we had negotiated everything we're going through and it was an as is, we got our inspection. Still like, okay, we like it, we're gonna keep going. But then like later they just wanted more credit. And they were like, we want to go to them and say we want a bigger credit. I'm like, they're like, we want you to tell them that we're gonna walk. If they don't do it, we know they need to sell. I'm like, but I know you're not gonna walk. Like we already had that conversation. So it was all just
What they thought was fair.
which I feel like I was like, if you walk, you're in breach anyway, right? Like you couldn't get out at this point. So I'm trying to tell them, but they were like, I think they just thought I wasn't comfortable negotiating. And I'm like, we aren't in a negotiating period anymore. You're just throwing this out there. So we ended up getting it. but I felt terrible. I was like, this is just gross to me. It's not that, you know, we have our stages where we can do this and you're just being extra.
Yeah. So sometimes it's difficult. Our clients will ask us to do things that we don't feel like are right or ethical to do. In situations
And
like
she's like,
that.
I'll call the agent. I'll have the lender call the agent and say, I'm gonna walk.
So,
So like, well, I'm not
here's
gonna
the
lie
thing.
about it because I know you're not.
Here's the thing, I think, is that when clients get unreasonable, I have to remove my own emotions and I have to say, here's what the contract allows. Right? And you can say, we're past the home inspection contingency. You don't have the right to ask for this. There's no contingency in which you have the right to ask for more credit. And if you just were to here's the specific ways, if you did want to ask for a credit just because you want to ask for one, because the seller could agree, right? You can ask for anything you want during a contract. If the other side agrees to it, it's okay. If both parties agree, it's okay then, right? But you don't have necessarily, there's no force behind it, right? The seller could just ignore it.
Right.
So I would let them know that. And then it sounds like it worked out for you, but then it's like, is there an out in the contract? And if there's not a legal out in the contract for the client, then I want to explain to them, hey, if you do this and say you're going to walk, if you don't, just so you know, if you do decide just to walk away, you're going to be in default and they could take legal action against you and they could still force you to close, or you could have to pay for damages. And I've seen that happen where sellers will take someone to court and then they're really tied up. So then clients can just make their own choice. And, you know, it sounds like.
With all that, they still.
Yeah. And the thing is that we have to, when we're representing our clients, present that to the other side. And you can't say, hey, you can't say anything that puts your client in jeopardy.
Right.
So sometimes it's difficult. And yeah, those are hard spots to be in. It sounds like it worked out.
You know, it's been like working like for me where like I lead with empathy for the other side. I'm like, hey, we're gonna ask, we're gonna try this, but I need you to put yourself in the shoes of the other side here, right? Imagine if this was your house. So this, and like, it seems to kind of take them out of, I've found myself saying a lot, like, you're gonna die on the hill of principle here. And if you do, you're always gonna lose. You're gonna shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like on principle.
So,
you know,
one of the things I think I'd be really cautious on is that, did they buy that? Was that a as-is inspection? So kind of back up your thinking and make sure that you're prepping clients for like what an as-is inspection means. And before that inspection period is over, I have had people do as-is inspections and still ask for repairs and still ask for things that they can't. And sometimes the seller agrees.
Yeah.
But I think preparing people, if they're not comfortable with being as-is, they shouldn't go as. It sounds like that was more maybe
So
the
they were
crux.
holding, I mean, this is kind of weird, but they were hanging their hat on that the FHA appraiser would flag some items. Because they had said, we'll fix anything that comes up in the appraisal on the FHA. And there was a lot that should have probably come up. There was issues. And the FHA appraiser said nothing. And so they were like, yeah, that's not good with us. So now we want money.
Yeah.
So
So
it's kind of-
again, I think,
But we were
and the
definitely out that
appraisal,
10 day.
yeah, and then you're out of it. Yeah. So again, I feel like in a real estate deal, I would say I'm not comfortable with my clients if I know that they would want repairs, hanging that on an appraisal, figuring it out. Like I would be like, whoa, red flag.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we should wait for that because in real estate, if there's a 0.5% chance of something happening, it does.
Right.
Like that's one thing I've learned, right? So if there is a risk or there's even anything, I just want to lay it out for my clients really clearly of this could happen, maybe a small chance of it, but are you okay if this did? What if the appraiser doesn't flag it? And then we've already passed the home inspection period. Are you okay with that?
We did that. Try to talk them out of it 10 times.
Yeah. Then you do your part, right? Sometimes people make their own decisions. I think it's up to us to be like, right, to be honest with our clients and kind of walk through. So to me, negotiating is about laying out all the options and letting them pick, you know, and really not having any kind of thought on which way they should go, because I don't know which way they should go. All right, so let's talk about the path of negotiation. So, option one, we just love. We make an offer, it's accepted, and then we go to closing. Doesn't that sound so simple? Real estate's so easy. We all complaining about. Option two, which I find this is happening more now, right? You make an offer, it's rejected or it's countered. Then there's some negotiation, it's accepted, rejected. Sometimes it's negotiated again. Like I've had deals where we negotiated 3 and 4 times till we finally come to, you know, something that's agreeable to both sides. Where do you guys find yourselves mostly when you're negotiating or when you're making offers? Option
For the
2.
most part, I mean, I'm certain, have more of the.
So during COVID, we had the top one, right? It was like you just had to come in, you had to give them everything, name your firstborn after them, and then you got the deal, right? Now, there's a lot more negotiation going on. And I am finding that a lot of agents are very uncomfortable with this skill. They don't know how to negotiate. I've had a couple, well, do you guys want to hear a crazy story? So I had a client recently. We saw a house. There was no multiple offer language in it. I called the agent and she said, yes, we're offering the full commission you're asking for. And we think we're going to be getting a couple of offers. So we've set a Friday deadline. I'm like, great, we'll have the offer to you by Friday night. We sent them an over asking price offer, 10,000 over the asking price. We did a $10,000 or $15,000 waive on action. They waived any difference on the appraisal, even though this house was overpriced to start with. So we still went 10 over, even though nothing had sold for this price. And they gave them a free rent back. They received no other offers that evening, except for ours. And they still did not accept our offer. They said that her client was not going to net enough money and that we would need to come up on the offer. And I was like, well, we're 10,000 over the asking price. And my client just said, no, we're not doing any more. Like we made a really good offer. And so they had a lot of showings the next day. So I think that that agent advised her client, like, hey, we have all these showings, there's all this opportunity. And they waited. And she called me back 24 hours later and said, could we sign that offer now? And I was like, no, but we'll send you another offer. We sent them another offer, full price, an inspection with, I think, 5,000 waived, no free rent back, and still the difference on the appraisal. They waived the appraisal, still a great offer. They didn't sign that again, waiting for Monday for offers to come that never came. So my client just walked away. Guess how long it took them to get that house under contract? 3 weeks. 3 weeks later, they were under contract. And I'm only saying this because I am finding a lot of sellers still kind of stuck in that COVID mentality with negotiating. And I had another deal recently. We made an offer, a full price, all cash offer, right? We did have an inspection on there, but it was, I think he waived maybe 5,000, right? No appraisal, no financing, made it the first day. They said they weren't going to wait for multiple offers. And then they came back and said, hey, we'll take your offer, but you need to come in $7,500 over the asking price because we have a lot of showings and some people who've said that they might make offers, but they're still talking to their lender. And I'm like, oh, so unprepared buyers might make an offer. They went under, my client walked away. I was like, no, I'm not giving you a penny more because it put a bad taste in my client's mind, which I wish it hadn't have, but it did. And they went under contract like 2 days later, I'm guessing with this person who is whatever, they're back on the market right now. So lessons learned on, I think, being cautious so you understand when you're negotiating and you're giving your client advice, you're really paying attention to what's happening into the market like right now. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. I don't know why I told that story right there, but I just did. Okay.
Is it saying to me that someone would list a house for less than they want?
Correct. So
aside from all the other crazy things about that story.
Yeah, so during COVID, we would do that, right? Like we kind of would list a little bit like a really hot price that we knew would attract a lot of people, get a lot of people in the door. But now I would say as a listing agent, I'm listing closer to the real price of a house because I'm probably not going to get multiple offers. I'm probably going to get one good offer. So let's stick it where we want it, a price that you're okay selling at.
But I guess what I'm saying is like, even if like I'll list houses a little less than what we want, but I have to know that that my seller is okay if that is all we get.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Like I always anticipate that we'll make a little more. We're going to list a little less, but like
right now,
we have a conversation of like, but if it only sells for this, I want to make sure this isn't.
I would say if you guys look at the MLS right now, it is under like the list price to the sale price, it's under 100%. So people are getting a little bit less than their asking price right now. Now there are situations You guys probably will know neighborhood to neighborhood, there's gonna be some neighborhoods that are like still very competitive, but I would say on the whole, right, they're coming under. So you need to understand that if you're a listing agent and if you're a buyer agent too, right? So that that area you're in may not be that competitive. It depends on the area right now. So when we're negotiating, right, it's the buyer and the buyer agent, right? You've got to have that really good relationship. You've got to have these conversations so you understand your client, how they work, how their brain works, how they think about things. As a seller agent, you need to know the same things about your seller. Everybody needs to be prepped for what could happen. And that really is a big help. So if you guys are ever having a situation where things didn't go as you wanted, like go back and have conversations with your clients, clear that confusion up. Make sure that you include that in your buyer conversation, or you start including it in your seller prep at your listing appointments. A lot of my problems I had early on in my business, I just incorporated ways to work around them to teach other people so I didn't get into that situation again. I don't know, like Mindy, just because you gave that example, was there anything you learned from that that you feel like now moving forward with other clients that you might incorporate differently, or you might have a conversation differently?
I don't know. I think these people were just such bulldogs. Like to the extreme.
It worked in their favor that time.
It did.
Doesn't always, because you
Right,
don't know what
right.
the other side's gonna
Right.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every time I said, you know, you could be every, they're like, well, no, because we would just continue on if they say no.
Okay,
And I'm like, okay,
that's great.
but. So they
Because
just,
I'm finding most people saying no right now. So you just got lucky.
Right.
Because we don't know what the other side's gonna say. You don't know what their motivation is.
well, so we weren't giving them like a termination or anything. We weren't trying to.
You couldn't.
Right.
You didn't have the right to terminate.
Right, exactly. So she's like, we're not actually doing it. We're just asking for more. I was like,
But worked out.
yeah, they were.
That's unusual.
They wanted more. I mean, we definitely came, like they were asking for a lot more. So we still negotiated it and they gave a little, we gave a little,
Okay. So sometimes our clients will make us do things that we're not comfortable with. And as long as it's not illegal, you do need to follow your client's orders. That's for sure. Now, it may not be a client that you want to replicate. You may not want to ask for their friends and family.
Right.
You may not want to get their referrals in the future if that's kind of who they are and you think what's going to happen moving forward. Because one of the things that I'm also really focused on is my reputation too with other agents, right? Like if you're a person who kind of does things you shouldn't do in a deal continuously, you will get a reputation for that. Does anyone here, and I don't want to mention any names, but does anyone here have an agent where they're like, I don't want to do a deal with that agent again? Does anyone have that situation?
I'll say names.
We're not because we're not going to talk bad about different agents, but like there are certain agents that you know, like I feel like I have a couple of that come to mind for me that I know like a win-lose situation, and my client's always going to lose.
Yeah.
So if my client is dying to buy one of those houses, I just say, hey, by the way, no matter how good I am at negotiating, you're going to feel like you lose this deal. Like if you're okay with getting the house, but just feeling a little bit like you lost a little bit. And every time they're like, yeah, that's how it felt. I'm like, well, I warned you.
Yeah.
So like, that's all you can do, right? Is just say what it is. Richmond is really small, you guys. There's what, 7,000 agents, but maybe like 200 that really sell a lot of houses, or 500, maybe 500. So like everyone kind of gets to know everybody. So I would say keep that in mind. We're a very close-knit community. All right, so here's some common points of negotiation. So we've got price and terms. So price, is that always the key thing for every offer? It's not. Terms are also equally important. So one of the things that I think is super helpful is that the day I start showing houses to a buyer, we're talking about these things. And I'm educating them about the home inspection process, the appraisal, the price of the house, their loan type. We are just talking through all those things. By the time we write an offer, they've already thought about how all those factors work with that house, right? Because some houses, you don't want to waive an appraisal. You don't want to waive an inspection on. Some you're like, okay, maybe there's some risk here. You could take a little bit of risk. And so understanding how those two things interplay together. And price is not always a leader for what a seller wants. How would you know what a seller is looking for? Ask questions. Yeah. What are some of y'all's favorite questions that y'all, and we're gonna talk about this later, but I mean, it's such a good, what are some great questions you guys have? That you ask?
What's the closing time frame they want?
Yeah, what's the closing time frame? Yeah.
How can I write this offer to make you look good when you present it? Like,
Oh, I love that. He just loves to look good. I'm like, ooh, you wanna make me look good? Okay, I like you. Yeah, that's a great one. I love that wording. Yeah, so these things are both important. So, and I think it's important to have these conversations in advance. It's important to talk to your seller in advance. What price are they expecting? You know, if you're listing a little bit under, are they okay if they get a little bit under? You know, or they know what their walkaway is? Are you doing a good net sheet for them so they understand the financing of the sale of their home and then the terms, right? So what is the risk involved with different kinds of financing? If it's an FHA buyer or conventional or it's cash, right? Those come with, one's not better than the other, but they just come with different kinds of risk. The appraisal, what kind of risk is there for the appraisal? So Mindy mentioned earlier with her FHA buyer, they thought some things would get flat, like rot, safety things like loose railings. I mean, I had an FHA appraisal once that flagged gutters on the house, even though they had all kinds of vegetation that didn't need gutters, they flagged gutters. We had to add them to the house to get the sale to go through. So that one was really funny. The timing of it, like when's the closing gonna be? Don't forget, both your buyers have to be in town to close. What's that timeline look like? Do people need a rent back? I'm seeing a lot of rent backs right now. Are you guys seeing those? And I think because a lot of people are buying contingent. So, you know, during COVID, you couldn't buy contingency. All of my contracts I'm writing right now are contingent.
Really? How are you gonna accept it? Like,
There's nobody else making an offer.
Are you putting in anything, are you putting anything to have them pull it off the market? Like to go ahead and pend it?
So these are contingencies on the successful closing of a home that's already under contract.
Okay.
Now, if I did have it, if I wasn't on the market yet and I wanted to I would do a first right, or I would send them a first right.
Yeah.
But they're not asking for a first right if you're under contract on their current house already.
First right.
You can do that. We do have like I'm trying to think I think we do have like an active where you can still market it. I know in Bright, I have houses in Bright and I can do that like an active under contract, like until that like kick out clause for the home inspection is done. Then you pend it. But here in MLS, we pretty much pend it. Once you're under contract, even if there's like a home's the buyer's home is under contract, it pretty much pends. I don't know I guess you could do an active if you wanted.
I don't think people ask for the seller side to be like, oh, let's do a first right. And I was like, well, no, because
they are under contract. They are under contract.
But if they weren't, or once they were under contract on my clients were under contract on their house that they were selling, but the sellers for the house, they were still wanted a first right to be able to market it just in case there's delays.
Because the closing is usually happening pretty close to the closing of the next one.
We said that.
Yeah, that's unusual.
It would be too risky for my client.
Yeah, that's I wouldn't do that either. And that's
my clients, like, you could get in a real pinch doing that.
If your home isn't even on the market yet and not under contract, then all day long, do the first right. But once the home is under contract, that's a more legitimate, but it is still a contingency that during COVID, you could even make that offer, right? So know that that's a contingency I'm seeing rent backs now, right? So you can include the seller possession agreement with that. You could offer them some free rent back or a great deal on a rent back or whatever time they need. What are some other terms?
Do you often, I encountered one the other day that was like, they're under contract, the buyers are under contract. People making the offer to us were already under contract on their home, that they had put in there that they wanted like 90 days to find a home. So they weren't closing, but their buyers have already gone through all the things. So they could literally close tomorrow if they're ready. They've got the clear to close, but they're just giving them an open time frame to find something. Do you use that often? I've never used it, but I love it.
No, that's interesting. That's a long time, 90 days.
Yeah.
So I just had a house that my seller hadn't identified a home. We didn't know if we'd be able to, right? The where they were moving to was a lot more sparse on
Right.
listings than where they were selling. So we went ahead and went under contract. And we asked for a little bit of a quicker closing. So we asked for like a 45-day closing, and then we asked for a 30-day rent back. So it gave them those 45 days to start looking. And then it gave them 30 more days, right, to kind of find something, get closed. And they had to figure out how they could they close on a new, how would they make that kind of transition? And it ended up working out because we ended up finding something. Sometimes when people are a little under the gun to find something, they're a little bit better at being precise about what they want. But my clients also had to have a plan. And I said, hey, if we don't identify a home within 45 days, when you close on your home, you're only gonna have 30 more days left. That's gonna be hard to find something and close on it. Like, do you have a backup plan? And they were like, yes, we'll rent something short term. I'm like, okay. So we had to have that kind of rental. You could also do something where, hey, we have 15 days to identify a new property, or we might have to just like cancel the contract. But I think that it's just whatever you and on the seller side and the buyer side can agree to give your client time to find something. And then you'd have a backup plan of like, hey, what if you can't identify something? What are you going to do? Because a lot of my clients right now need to sell their house first. And then those proceeds to be able to purchase a new home. So we have to start with A. They might want to start looking at houses, but like selling the house is step one, and they have to do step one first. And there's a little bit of blind faith of like, will there be homes on the market? Will we be able to find something?
90-day rent back, doesn't the mortgage company make you
Does not
commit to
rent
the
back.
house and by
Yeah,
a certain
yeah.
point?
59 days.
Yeah.
So it's like,
59
I'm like,
days.
I
But
think
this
that's
was a
past
rent
that
back. This
number.
was like they weren't closing. They were just
Oh,
going
And
they
shop
extended,
closing.
which is risky, because what if somebody loses their job?
Well, yeah.
What if
Yeah.
something changes that then changes that clear to close?
Well, the rates.
I
like,
would-
I'd be like,
yeah,
if they locked.
I
it,
would
great.
close all day long and get that money in my account and then ask for an extended rent back. That's what I would choose. That's less risky. I do not like long closings. Have you guys ever had a close? Anyone ever had a closing fall apart like the day before? Someone loses their job. It happens.
I had somebody switch jobs, like.
Okay, they
he-
switch
he-
jobs.
He was going from a contractor at the job to a full-time employee.
At least that's a good
But
switch.
but they said it's a different employer. It was the contract company versus the company. And he took a week off to move, he thought. He was like, oh, I'll start this one in a week and so when they did the verification of employment, he was no longer working for the contract
He
company.
was employed.
So we couldn't close for like another month because they needed 2 pay stubs. Like,
Oh,
oh my
gosh.
gosh, poor thing, like this.
Yeah,
So he was
don't
homeless
change
for a
jobs.
second. I was like, and I had said, have the conversation with the lender first, because he told me day one, he lived in North Carolina and was driving in and was gonna become full-time once he found a place.
Yeah.
That's how they,
So
and
again,
the lender didn't tell him.
any kinds of big changes like
Yes.
this, like make sure you're talking to your buyer so you know what's happening in life. I had a buyer who went out and bought a bunch of stuff the day before closing. Had to furnish that house. They didn't close.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Okay, so like lessons learned on some of those things,
Yeah.
right? All right, what are some ahas already, just talking about negotiating? And if anyone online wants to jump in, we'd love to hear what you guys are thinking. No ahas from anyone? Wait. Is it not? It feels like someone's trying to talk, but it's not showing on here. Is everyone still on here? Okay. Anyone have any ahas or anything they want to share? Just letting us talk away up here. All right, we'll keep going then. All right, so let's talk about the 3 P's of negotiation. So this is to prepare, present, and position. So preparing, right, that's the key to building confidence with yourself, with your clients, and getting a smooth negotiation process. So that's all of the questioning and the talking to people up front, pairing that great offer. Presenting is when you're going to actually present whatever offer you have, either to the seller, and then the seller, how the seller presents it to their client. And then position is when you're going to move both parties closer until you have full agreement. All right, so when you're preparing, you want to first off, know what your goal is. And I would say know your goal, but like, what's your client's goal? What's their motivation, right? So if you have a seller who really wants to sell and it's like, yep, I'm open, I want to sell. Do you have a buyer? Do they really want this house or not? Right? So those are questions, and we're going to talk about the kinds of questions to ask, but sometimes buyers will be like, I only want this house if I can get it at this price. Like I'll walk away. It's one way or the other to me. You guys ever had buyers like that? The price is the leader. They don't really care what the house looks like as much. They're all about the same to them. I have a lot of buyers like that, right? It's just about the price for them. Knowing your clients, right? Understanding what their goals are here. And the more that you know and the more conversations you have, when you guys are showing houses, you should be talking to them constantly, asking a ton of questions so you get a really good feel for them. Thinking ahead. This is so important as an agent. Like, I think we can avoid a lot of mistakes and situations and obstacles by preparing ourselves and thinking ahead so that we can avoid those things. Anticipating what the other client, what the other party might be thinking, right? And thinking about counters. So if you're going to make an offer, and let's say that let's just say a house is priced at 400, and you've done your research, looks like the house, your client would like to get the house for 380. There's no other offers coming in. You feel like it's reasonable. What do how do you think ahead to start thinking about how is this negotiation going to go? Sometimes it doesn't go the way you think, but you can kind of try to play devil's advocate on, hey, if we come in right at 380, might not get signed. They might come back at 390. So if you want to end up somewhere, where do you need to start? And how is that? And then how can you position that offer? When you guys are making lower offers, if you're on the buy side, and I guess most people in here, are you guys mostly representing buyers? Is it more buyer representation? So if you're presenting a lower offer, have any of you guys presented a super low offer recently? You have? How did you position it? It's really important how you prepare and how you position that offer and how you present it. And thinking ahead of like how you're going to do that.
So we look more, I mean, I have some buyers who look for things that have been sitting on the market and they've already taken a price cut.
Okay.
And they'll go any of them. Not all the time, but like I have some buyers, that's their strategy, right?
That's a good strategy. Yeah. The home has been on the market for a little while, right? Hopefully the sellers are softened up. Could they have potentially already gotten some low offers that they rejected? Maybe yours is the one they accept. Maybe yours is the first offer and they're not willing to go there yet. And the second person gets it. That happens too. The reality. Yeah. Exactly. Set some clear expectations, right? So I feel like this is all about balancing, right? Like, are you going to go in and is your client going to go in and sweep the deal and have a big win and the seller's going to have a big loss? Maybe not, right? So trying to balance out the offer with some common sense. So if I'm going to present a super low offer, I'm going to think about setting some clear expectations for my buyer about, hey, we're making a super low offer. So what is it we can offer to the seller to help balance this a little bit, right? To let them know we're not trying to ding them. Or what can we talk about to say, hey, like I just negotiated down on a deal. And the reason we negotiated down is that all 3 HVAC units in this house were 20 years old. Who's replacing those? My buyer, right? 3 units. That's probably what, 20,000? So it was really easy to say, here's how we're making a $20,000 less offer because these all are going to have to be replaced and my client's going to have to replace them. This is going to be their forever home. This is going to be their expense. That's great. They've maintained them, but so we just had some so I think setting clear expectations of like, if you're going to make some low offers, like how do you balance it? Because you need the other side to accept it. You need to kind of, for them to see it through your lenses. Be really,
I sometimes frame it of like, don't shoot the messenger. I don't know. I've had some people make offers where they're like, well, we don't think your upgrades are like, they're not nearly, and they just immediately come at you with all the things wrong. So I tried to not lay out everything wrong with the house, right? Like, I mean, I would in that scenario, I would definitely say like there's 3 units, right?
Which is straightforward. Yeah. I wasn't being rude. I wasn't like, oh, I'm like, hey, we appreciate they've taken such great care of them. They've obviously serviced them, but they are 20 years. We all know that that's way past the life expectancy of them. And my client knows that. They know that we're going to have to replace them. And so this is why they're making a lower offer. No disrespect, know that they love this house. It's just, this is just gonna be a huge expense for them.
Right.
Just common sense.
Yeah.
And yes,
Take the
you don't
emotion out of
go,
it.
you don't whine about it. I didn't call and go, oh my gosh, listen, we can't believe you listed this house with 3 old systems in it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, if you start, I think I always try to remember, and we're gonna talk about this in presenting the offer. If you remember that other listing agent, not only they're the listing agent, but this is their like baby too. This is the house that they've listed. You don't want to talk badly about it. You don't want to put them down for it. Or, it's not the time to school them on, hey, you really mispriced this house. Like nobody wants to hear that. That's not going to help in negotiating at all.
I've done that where, in an effort to not do that, because sometimes I'm honestly just thinking like, maybe I missed something, if I can't get the comps to work out, because I have to be able to explain to my buyer and justify, because they're looking at me being like, we offer, that's our whole conversation. So sometimes I'll go to listing agent and say like, hey, I can't quite get my buyers to this number, but I'd love if you can share some comps with me. And that actually, I'd love to share them with my buyer, and then maybe we can get that up. It just.
That feels collaborative, like you're asking.
Yeah, and now I might know that either
There's
I
no
missed
comps?
something or there's no comps, right? It's like, I kind of looked and I didn't see any comps, but I'm not telling them that. I'm almost saying like, hey, help me help you. Now, I have a feeling I'm not gonna get something back in return, and sometimes I don't.
But then
When I finally submit it, I'm like, hey, we had a conversation, here's where my buyers feel comfortable, but if you do come up on any information, please feel free to share it,
Yeah.
it's like.
if I pull comps and I can't find anything else, I'm gonna attach those comps to the offer and say, hey, like my client, of course, love to make a full price offer, but when we look at comps, we just can't find anything. And we know there's gonna be an appraisal. And so like, if, again, like, just like you said, hey, if there's something we missed, like, let us know, whatever you use to price this, but we're just not seeing anything. And so they're gonna make an offer based on what other things recently have sold for. It's like not being offensive, it's just
Especially if it's been on the market a minute. They may have priced it in summer and now it's fall.
I mean, who knows how they got their price, but I think
Yeah.
it's like using good reason is never a bad like choice, and being kind about it. I think that's a great comfort, a great combination. So be informed. So being informed here is talking to the listing agent, talking to the, right? You're talking, when you're going to make an offer, you're talking to that listing agent, you're asking questions. Will listing agents tell you things they shouldn't tell you? All day long. It is not illegal for you to ask questions. Like, hey, why is your client moving? Hey, what do you think your client's looking for? Like, sometimes I'll call to ask about the house and I'll get a 10-minute dissertation on what's happening in the private life of that seller. I'm like, why did you just tell me all of this? Right? Because I'm going to use that to my client's benefit and a way to craft an offer that I know they'll tell me. Like, I just had one recently and she was like, listen, these people are super particular. She went on for 20 minutes about how particular they were. I was like,
For sellers.
yes. And I was like, okay. Like, it was just a lot of good information that I could tell my client about like how we geared our negotiation and how we did things so that they would really like what we were offering. So I think that's important. Another interesting and I think really needed is that if you're making offers for buyers right now, if you aren't calling pended agents, you're missing out on some really valuable information. Our market is moving and changing right now, week to week. It's very hard as an agent to know how hot an area is because they're hot one weekend and they're cooling off the next. If you, and I don't know about you all, but even being a seasoned agent, like, I don't know what's happening in every neighborhood. I can't. There's so many neighborhoods. My clients I have one under contract in Cheston Landing. I have one under contract in Fox Creek. I have one in Harper's Mill. I have another one that's out in the West End. I'll have one in the city. Like, I can't know all the offers that are happening on every house. So when I'm doing comps, I'm going to call those agents that are pending that look like this house. I'm going to find out, like, hey, did you get multiple offers? Are you kind of around the asking price? How did you go way over? Did you go under? What kind of terms did you see? Right? Or people, and they'll kind of tell you if they can. If you can't get the information from the listing agent, call the buyer agent that has it pending. They might be more likely to tell you.
Is there anything that they might not legally be able to tell you, like?
If their client doesn't allow it.
Okay.
We cannot disclose any information that our client does not allow us to disclose. You want to have those conversations. If you're a listing agent, you need to make sure, because what happens if you disclose that information and their house goes back on the market and then somebody knows something about that deal that kind of changes offers that could come in. So be careful. There was an agent recently in our market, and have you guys heard about this, that got taken to court for ethics violation, had to pay a fee, undisclosed fee. I don't know what it was because it was behind closed doors. But what happened was, a buyer agent called her and said, I'm gonna, we're thinking about making an offer. Gonna do a showing, and asked if they had had any offers. And she said, we haven't had any offers on the house. Not, do you have multiple offers, but that they hadn't received offers, the home had been on the market. They got an offer, went under contract, closed. Well, the sellers found out that this comment had been made. Somehow they talked to the buyers and it kind of got back to them that they knew they hadn't had any offers. And the sellers sued the agent, saying that you put me in a bad position when they knew that we hadn't received any offers yet. That, we were it put us in a lesser position. So she got a ding. She had to pay a hefty fine, I think, for it. So that's something you wouldn't think about. You're like, well, that seems kind of benign to say. Common sense would say if you're still on the market, you don't have any offers. I mean, I guess you could have not taken offers. And the only situation where I would tell somebody if we had had offers, if my client had declined lower priced offers and was still going to decline them and was okay with me telling people that, maybe I would share that, but only whatever your client has given you permission to disclose, can you disclose. Having multiple offers, knowing that multiple offers might be coming, how many showings you have, although we can all see that really on showing time. Anything like that. Why your clients moving, their motivation. You cannot disclose any of that information unless your seller tells you.
You get that in writing from your seller?
I have in the past when we were doing multiple offers so much. Now, not really having multiple offers with a lot of my listings. So I would have that conversation if we got to that position.
The situation where, the situation where they ask you, do you have any offers? And let's say you don't, right? But let's say the seller is okay with you disclosing whatever. What would you, how would you phrase it so that you don't give away the fact that you might not actually have any offers?
Well, if you're directly asked, like, oh, do you have any offers? I could just say, I don't have any offers in hand right now, but we are actively taking offers.
Okay. Okay.
But it doesn't say that whether we have offers coming or not. If my client said I can do that.
Yeah.
And you want to talk to your client, like, hey, do you want me to say that we have offers or not coming? And if your client doesn't want you to say anything, all you say is, I don't have permission to share any information about other offers. But I would encourage you just to make an offer if you're interested in the property. Like, right? That's just the truth.
Excuse me, Kim.
Yes.
Hi, this is James Jones. How are you?
Hey, James.
Hey, I was going to ask a question similar to the young lady just before, but I wanted to ask it in the framework of not just that particular question, but others. When you're calling an agent and you're trying to build rapport and the conversation can go smoothly and they can slip a question in, like you just mentioned, hey, why are they selling? And it's just rapid fire. I wanted to hear some of the dialogue around responding to those types of questions, if that's at all possible. Meaning, hey, why are they selling? That type of thing. Because like I said, you can get caught up in the building rapport stage and kind of freeze a little bit because you're like, oh man, how do I respond without flat out lying?
Yeah, you don't want to lie. But one of the things that I know is that there's very specific questions that buyer agents ask. And so I want to make sure that I ask my clients, hey, what do you want me to tell people when they ask these questions? That's part of my listing presentation. Hey, if people ask why you're selling, what do you want me to say? And it doesn't have to be like 100% of all the truth of it, but it could be things like, it's a job change and they're moving to a different part of town to be closer to work. Or their kid's going to be in a different school and they want to get closer to the school. Or they're a growing family, need a bigger home. Or they're downsizing, right? It can be some very simple things. It doesn't have to be all of the details about other things that are happening.
I understand. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And again, this is part of like wherever we find ourselves in a conundrum in real estate, usually it is us asking some questions the next time around, right? Like really preparing ourselves like, okay, I don't want to be stuck in this situation again. Like, what do I need to do to avoid this in the future? And that's usually just asking someone more questions.
It's interesting because I feel like that question to my client would seem very black and white, like, hey, someone might ask about the other offers we have in hand, prices, terms, things like that. What do you want me to share? But when the buyer asks it, it's very gray, right? Because my client could say, like, you could share it, but I know I'm not going to share the exact price, right? I might say, because I don't want them to just come in $1,000 over, right? So it's like, hoping that your client understands that, like, you're going to be a little savvy about it, but I also need permission, but know that I'm not going to give it away.
Yeah, I don't talk about any of the terms.
Yeah.
Make that very clear. But if my client wanted me to, I think there's also pros and cons. So in this market right now, if you know that multiple offers are coming, I'm having buyers walking away from that situation.
Right.
So before COVID happened, I did have situations where I would have two different buyer agents saying, we're going to make an offer on your house. And if we told both sides, both parties walked away. That does happen. And so like, you need to let your clients know what could happen. Like we're in a different market right now. Multiple offers doesn't mean everyone's going to step up and make a better offer. It could mean you get no offers. Are you okay with that? Right? Like not everybody wants to compete. People have heard that, like, I hate the word bidding wars, or the two words, bidding wars. Like we're not in a war. This is real estate. There's no wars happening, right? And there's really no bidding. We're not doing any bidding, right? There's just, so I really don't like that word. And I think right now, a lot of people are scarred by that from COVID. And I'm getting a lot of people that just don't want to be involved with that. They're not interested in overpaying and overdoing. I don't know, is anyone here having a different kind of experience? Because I'd love to hear that if you are. I mean, I put a lot of things under contract in the past month. I think probably almost, I think I've got like, just in the past month, like almost 10 houses under contract. And I think maybe only one of them, we had multiple offers.
I feel like even in some like my listings that did have multiple offers, it was like one stood out and the rest. So it was either like we were the only one, or we only got one offer, or as like representing the buyer, or the only offer, or it was like,
Yes.
we're now representing the seller. There was one obvious standout, and the rest were just kind of people that I think were in the market, just kind of putting things up.
Yes, I have had two clients recently who closed already, but they were in multiple offers, but it was like one other offer. It wasn't like 10 offers. And they were more reasonable. People weren't going crazy. Now, again, if you're in an area where you think it could go crazy and there's back-to-back showings, you've got to call the other agents to find out. So when I'm calling other agents, I'm going to ask how many offers they got. So why would that be important to know how many offers? What's that tell you? You get 10 offers on a house.
And you got competition.
Yeah, if you've got 10 offers, only one person won, how many other buyers are still looking?
9.
9. And if you're in a multiple offer situation and your client does make an offer, it's important to know where they are in the lineup. Why would that be? What if they're number 9?
What'd you say?
It's,
I did? Oh. Oh, was that?
were you going to say something, Tara?
You want to redo that first clip?
Oh, sorry, y'all. No, I was just going to say that the multiple offer situation has really died down. Like I just had, offers come in on a property this weekend, and it was only 2. Although I was, we had a lot of showings scheduled, but we only got 2 offers. And the seller was a little disappointed that, we didn't have more offers. But, I just explained that, buyers have options right now, and they're really taking their time and picking apart properties and making sure that their money is being well spent. So like you said, having the conversation about, just a realization of what the market may bring is something that you definitely need to do when you sit down with your sellers.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. So what are some ways that you guys could have some real talk with sellers about what's really happening in their market? What are some statistics you could pull and some information you could give them to help them manage whether or not they might get multiple offers. That's a strategy for listing. Like, do you put that language in there? Do you not? Like, how do you advise them on that?
Average days on market, percentage of list price sold, days to pending.
That's-
Days on market.
When I pull their comps and I look at comps, I'm going to do the active, the pended, the sold, the expired, the released. When you guys start pulling that, even if you just look at the percentage of what's around them, when there are 10 houses for sale, 2 are pended and only 4 are closed, right? That's a lot more supply and a lot less demand. So you can even just pull something really simple. I love looking at that and being like, hey, you know, out of the, you know, of this past 6 months in your neighborhood, like there's 10 houses for sale. So if anyone's trying to sell in Harper's Mill right now, if you pull the Harper's Mill stats, it is so many active. The pended and the closed are not high. So that tells me there's a lot of supply and the demand is down. So like probably not going to be multiple offers. So you can just look at that balance. During COVID, you couldn't find anything active. Everything was pended or sold. Everything. There'd be like 1 active. There was nothing to compete against. So like understanding, and Tara, like you said, like there's competition. And I think competition too is not closely bound like we think of it. Like appraisers say like 1 mile. I'm going a little further now. Like when I'm looking at comps, because I think my buyers are willing to travel a little further and not stay in this one little pocket. It depends on the area. I mean, sometimes there's a neighborhood, but be aware of that. Like what else would a buyer be looking at that would compete with this? And kind of include that in your comp. So really being informed there's a lot to be informed about. And make sure that when you're informed, you're teaching your clients about it. You're showing them numbers and stats. It's not just your opinion. You're actually showing them the facts and then talking through how those facts could affect them in their sale or their purchase. All right. Any more questions about that? We'll talk more about some of that too. Obey the laws. Nothing illegal. I've heard of illegal things happening in deals. That's how you lose your license, right? So we're going to follow the laws, and then you're going to know the documents inside out. So if I stood here and grilled you on all the terms of the contract, how many days to this? Could your client terminate? Can they release? What are they able and not able to do here? How does this this term affect their sale? Could you guys answer all the questions? And if you can't, start reading that contract over and over again, right? So, so if we're talking about the home inspection, right? We have so many days to the inspection. When's the deadline to when's the deadline to present all of your findings and your repair request? Right? You write that deadline in, or it's a 10 days. Once you have presented the repair request, how many days do you have to negotiate? Anybody know?
7.
7 days to negotiate. What happens if you can't come to agreeable terms after day 7?
You can get out of the contract if there's no agreement there.
The buyer has the right to release for 2 days.
Okay.
If they don't release, what happens? Or they don't terminate, excuse me, they have the right to terminate. They don't terminate, what happens?
If they don't terminate, then you move forward.
With the contract with nothing negotiated, you take the house as is.
Yep.
Yes. What happens if you miss your date to provide the repair request to the sellers?
No repairs.
They don't have to make any repairs. Now you could use something else in the contract to terminate, but not there. What is the difference between a termination and a release? Release is for the earnest money. Now the release is for both. So the release is for your earnest money deposit, but it also releases everyone from any obligations of the contract. So it does both. What's the termination? You just went out. The termination is a right that is unilateral. One party can walk away from the deal, and there's only specific ways you can walk away from a deal, right? You can't come to terms on the appraisal. the buyer can walk away. The home inspection, you can't come to terms on the home inspection by day 7. After day 7, the buyer has the right to terminate. If you don't get financing, if your financing falls through at the very end, you have the right to terminate. You have to provide a letter saying, hey, we didn't get approval for financing. But those are the specific ways. What about in the HOA? How many days do people have for the HOA documents?
3.
Yes. What happens when you write a contract and the listing agent does not have the residential property disclosure attached and you present your offer without it? What does that allow your buyer to do? It
Walk
gives them the
away.
right. It gives them the right to terminate. And I think 3 days even after the residential property disclosure is signed.
Mhm.
Those listing agents make sure that's there. So you guys, these kinds of things, like you need to really understand that they're all in the contract. So if there's any area of the contract where you feel fuzzy on it, read it over and over, ask other people how to interpret it so that you can really answer and advise your clients. Because if you don't understand the contract, that is the template for walking through the deal.
I have a question, Kim.
Sure.
So and I had a situation like this some time ago, but I went ahead and reminded the listing agent that I didn't have those documents, but I could have used that as leverage. So if they never presented the HOA documents, I could have used that as leverage if my client wanted to walk away.
Yes, they could have
How-
walked away and use that as a right to terminate. The residential property disclosure was not provided.
Yes. Mhm.
Yep, nothing they could do about it. Now, they don't have to sign the release, but we all know people eventually sign the release. So here's an interesting, I love the contract. So I had a home inspection recently where we weren't through day 7, but we had all agreed that we weren't going to come to agreeable terms. So did I have the right to sign a termination?
You were on the buyer side?
No.
I did not. I sent a release and this agent threw a fit. She said, you have to send me the termination too. I'm like, I don't have the right to terminate. But if you'd like us to wait till day 7 or day 8, I'm happy to wait till day 8. But I figured you want to go back on the contract, get on back on the market. And I just sent the release because that's all I had to send. I had the right to send.
The mini towns.
So, all right. Hey, Tara, I think you need to put yourself on mute. All right. Oh, I love all this stuff. We could talk, you guys, I need to teach a contract class because that's my favorite.
All right, am I still doing the?
Yeah, so here, I make
Here.
for this one.
Tara, I think you're still on. Can you mute yourself, Tara?
Sorry, yes.
That's okay. All right, so ask purposeful questions. So we've been talking about this already, right? So like it provides you with points that you'll negotiate on, gives you some insight where your client might have some leverage, set some clear expectations, allows you to, hold on. It allows you to get to know your client and their goals better, and then helps you learn what will make a win-win negotiation for both parties, right? So we know if we get a win-win, we present a good offer, it's like kind of like irresistible, the other side's going to sign it. Or your client's going to get what they want. So let's talk about a couple of questions. So difference between open-ended and closed questions. Oh my gosh, anyone who have teenagers? You learn this very quickly. How was school? Good. Fine. What happened today? Nothing. Like right? Like my sons, I have 3 boys. They don't tell you anything. There could have been there could have been ambulances all over that place or a fire. Who knows? I would not have heard about it, right? Nothing happened as far as they were concerned. And so you want to ask those open-ended questions, right? Hey, what other information should I know? So when you call a listing agent as the buyer agent, hey, what should I know? What is your seller looking for? What are some things that are going to be important to your seller? If I was going to craft the perfect offer, aside from price, what would your seller be looking for? Right, so then I know I could offer them some things that really entice them. And you never know, not every seller wants the highest price. Maybe they want a quicker closing. Maybe they're worried about the inspection, right? Maybe they just want a fair price and someone that's going to love their home. I don't know. You guys would be surprised when you ask the questions, what you find out. It's important to know from your buyer too. Same thing, oftentimes, you guys ever find this where you're walking through a house with a buyer and you know it's perfect, you're like, oh my gosh, slam dunk, I'm the best agent in the world, and they say, I don't like it. And you're like, what? Right? So sometimes it's like asking more of those open-ended questions. All right, so tell me, this had all the 5 things you talked about being key things, but you don't like it. So tell me what's missing. Like, what is it, how is it, what is it about this that you don't like? So here's another, what's important about closing in 30 days? How do you feel about that? Whereas on the other end, the close ended, do you have other offers? What's the bottom line price? Don't ever ask that. What's the bottom line price you would consider? Yeah. What are you gonna say to as your listing agent? The asking price? Like, what would your client sell it for? Oh, it's for sale for 500. They would sell it for 500.
I don't even think I'd say the asking price. I just be like, what?
The price that's in MLS is the price we would sell it for, right? But these don't give you a lot of, they don't give you a lot of juicy information to help with. What are some of y'all's favorite questions to ask?
The agent or our client?
Yeah, any of them. Here, we'll go to this one. So these are some what and why questions. Maybe I'll have you guys go here. So what would happen if, why is this important to you? Right, so these are some of those questions that help. So do you guys ever use either kinds of these questions and like how you might ask? Here's what I do. Let's have somebody that wants to go, we'll use Mindy's example. When her client wanted to send in a request that they didn't have permission to request. Okay, great. So what happens if the seller gets really angry and refuses and won't do it? Oh, fine, we'll just move forward with the deal. Okay, great. Perfect. No harm then, let's do it. Right? But if they had said, oh my gosh, we're gonna walk away. Okay, well, let's talk about what that looks like if you walk away. What that, because you don't really have the right, there's no termination here. So like, what would that look like?
Yeah, I recently had an agent that every time I asked him a question, he's on the seller side. Like one of my favorites is just, okay, what kind of time frame are y'all looking for? Because we want to meet that, right? With whatever we're offering. Yeah, we want to try to make them happy. And he was like, whatever. I'm like, well,
That's why
some guy.
FYI, I wasn't smart enough to ask my seller, so I don't know.
Right. And even up to like this past week, like we were closing and it was like, are they out? Are we good? Like, they were like, we can maybe move it. It was weird. And I said, okay, my people, they wanted to they wanted to get a new rate because the rates went down, right? So my people, we already had to clear close. They wanted to maybe scoot it out a second. We're like, and I had to message him about like, is our close date still good? Are we good? And he's just not getting back to me. I'm like, it's crazy. And so then finally I said, so do your people need more time? And he's like, do you need more time? Like he would always answer it with another question.
I don't think you just gonna do this.
It was crazy.
Interesting. That's not a good sign.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do like like how important is that to you to my clients? Because sometimes I'll find they'll give me like 3, whatever must-haves, 4 must-haves, and some of them can contradict each other sometimes. And so sometimes they'll be like, well, I want it to be, so I have a client looking in the museum district right now. They're like, I want it to be under 1.2, it needs to have this many bedrooms because my kids come and visit, blah, 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 blah. Got to have space for this grand piano. Oh, but it needs to be under this price, but it needs to have a shed or a garage and all these things. And I'm like, how important is the grand piano? The kids coming to visit, super, super important. The whatever. And then I found out that like the grand piano was given to her by her grandmother or whatever. Cause it just felt like it was this one piece that wasn't fitting within what she wanted. It was just houses we were looking at that within her price point, that the piano was going to take up an entire room of the narrow fan house, but she really wanted that space to entertain. So it's kind of like, how important is entertaining to you and how important is the piano? It's like where on a scale. And that way, when I was going through, I could have a more like empathetic conversation about. Yeah, like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, the kids coming home and having a place to sleep up here. Is the piano up here too? Because if it isn't, she did now.
Yes.
Or is the piano down?
Sometimes too, right? Buyers come with a big wish list. And there's a reality of houses that are available and their price point, the location that they want. And does it have all those pieces that they want? Right? So I have a client right now who wants space, but wants a lot of land, but doesn't want to have to take care of it. wants to have the internet, wants to have a low tax rate, which means like Amelia, Louisa, well, Amelia mostly, Powhatan, right? But needs that internet. I'm like, okay, well, if you're far out, internet's hard, and you want a house for this price, and it needs to have a garage, and it needs to all be under 350.
Oh.
Closer to 300 if possible, right? So, right, so we have these conversations about how important is that garage.
Yeah.
So a garage is a factor that I know changes the price. Just like for you, you know, to get a grand piano and a fan home, it has to be a little bit extra wide. That's going to cost more money. And there's not going to be as many of those. And it has a garage. That's even, right? And even another piece, right? But she adds something. So I always am like, how are you going to use it? You know, so he's like, so I'm asking him lots of questions about the garage. How are you going to use this garage? Tell me about that. What are you going to do in the garage? Right? Like, how important is that? Are you willing to have the garage and then the house maybe isn't as nice? Or do you want to focus on the house being a little nicer? You can maybe add a shed or you can add a structure after the fact. So knowing how people are going to use space is really important. Because then you can kind of start matching it with houses a little bit more in your knowledge of what's available. And that is just negotiating with your client, right? So it's not always deals that we're negotiating, it's also negotiating, helping our client. If you have a client who's banging their head against a wall and can't get a house, their criteria and the market are just not matching. And you've got to help them figure out how to get into the right spot with what they're looking for. So I know like during COVID, our team was really successful in winning a lot of deals, not because we had financially like competent clients who were just stronger than others, is because we had them looking in the right market. We had them looking in the right spot where they could compete and they could be successful. Well, same thing for buyers right now, right? Like, are they looking at the right houses? Are you just going to keep showing them things and they're going to keep like not finding it? Or do you have like real conversations?
Yeah.
And about what is it that's important? What do we really need here? Why are you using this space? And I always think understanding how people are going to use a house is really important. When people say, hey, we want 4 bedrooms. I'm like, okay, tell me what every bedroom's used for. Like, so I know, like maybe they really just need a 3-bedroom and an office. So I'm like, okay, we could do 3 bedrooms and the house needs to have an office somewhere, but like, could your office be tucked somewhere downstairs in the house? I'm like, yeah, that would work. Great. Let's go with 3 bedrooms. Right. So you kind of start finding out like, what is it they're using that space for?
I'm sorry, Kim.
No, go jump in there. Jump in.
I was just going to add that is helpful when trying to set expectations of your clients, because I've had clients who readily throw out the things that they want, and I know right off the bat it just doesn't add up. It's not making any sense. You know, this may be way out there, but I did have a similar request. Hey, I want a penthouse on the water with a big backyard. Those just don't go together. And I'm like trying to decide how to react rather than saying, oh no, that's not happening. You know, trying to do it in a tactful manner.
Yeah. So to me, I always think about real estate this way. There's 3 factors. There's price, there's condition, and there's location.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there's other factors in there too, but those are the 3 big ones. Those are the ones that people get tripped up on. So usually price is something you think people aren't negotiable on, but they sometimes are. I have clients very frequently that come to me and say, we want to buy something at 400 and they end up at 525. They have the ability to do more, right? But maybe they don't want to tell me that to start. So like, what are their finances? What are they capable of doing? That location. Do they need to be introduced to some different locations? Or if location is the biggest factor, that's really going to dictate their price, right? And then condition, like, are they willing to like take something that's a little bit like lesser condition, less features, less amenities, and maybe add those things over time. And if someone comes to me with a big wish list of things, and you have to kind of use your brain on this, but like a lot of times I'll take the price off and be like, okay, if you want to live in the area you want to live in, the kind of house you want, here's some of those houses. And they're like, holy moly, that's twice the price that of our budget. And I'm like, okay, what could go? So sometimes showing them things is very helpful. And I don't mean taking them out to see the houses. I mean, just like on MLS, just be like, let's just do a quick search with this. Let's see what comes up. Or you put in all their criteria. You're like, oh, look, there's 0 houses, right? That happens right now a little bit. So I think it's sometimes just showing them the facts of like, hey, for all these things that you want, like, you know, if they've got like a 400 budget and you're like, these houses are more in the 600 budget. How do you feel about scaling back and buying something right now at 400? And this is maybe a 2 or 3 year house, and then we get you to the next level, right? So I personally think that buyers want everything right now. They're just, people aren't willing to have like a starter home as much. They want kind of all the bells and whistles.
I was listening to a master class, and it was talking about like the nature of sales has changed. And it used to be that as salespeople, our job was that we were just the keepers of all information. Like you had to go through us to get the information. That's what it was. You were a car salesman, houses, whatever. Like you couldn't see a house unless we gave you the book of the houses or whatever it was. But that the nature of sales has changed now, and everyone's actually coming to us with an enormous amount of information. And so that our job as salespeople is actually problem solvers now. And the only way to solve someone's problem is to solve someone's problem is to ask an enormous amount of questions. Because then we get, how are you going to use the bedrooms, whatever. And I found that to be really interesting to me. It definitely changed the way I was communicating with my clients. Because it's not a say, like it's not, you're not selling them on something. You're really trying to solve their problem 99% of the time. They're coming to you with maybe something that's unrealistic. Or they think they know where they want to be, but you end up being like, what about over here? And like, that actually, the house they're popping it down, whatever that may be.
Yeah, that's such a great point. So 100%. And as you were talking, it reminded me when all my boys got to their teenage years, right? Internet, phones. I mean, they could know so much more about things than I could even know. Like they could look anything up, right? We're in the age of information is available all the time. And I was like, how do I parent them? Like,
what's your value?
What's my value as a parent, right? And I listened to this one gentleman, and I'll never forget this, and it's so true, which is it's wisdom. It is wisdom that you cannot find on the internet. It is wisdom that you cannot look up. And wisdom is the ability to like ask questions, help people navigate the information that's in front of them and make good choices for themselves, right? It's leaning on your experiences you've had that they don't have. You know, when you've sold multiple homes, you know things that they just don't know. You have that wisdom and experience that you can share of, hey, this is kind of how this stuff kind of works. This is what's going to happen. You know, if you go down this path, here's what can happen. If you go down this path, right? And helping to guide them, it's so important to help them make good decisions. So I'm so glad you brought that up.
It's really become like my value proposition, aside from anything else, is now I don't think you can like, you have to show it, you know, tell it, but it definitely changed my way of thinking.
Yeah. I love that. All right, so this is like a scenario that they have, which I don't think I even have the scenario here, but does anyone have a scenario where they feel like I should have asked better questions here, or I want to know how to better ask questions in this situation? We'll just do like a live scenario that maybe if you guys have something recently that's happened. Does anyone have something that they want to go through? It could be a conversation with a client. It could be a conversation with another agent.
That lawsuit you said scared the shit out of me. Let's workshop that.
It did me too.
Because it's such a gray area. Like I'd like to workshop that a little bit more if we can. I know it's kind of going backwards a little bit, but
yeah. So basically, what happened was that she disclosed that they hadn't had any offers to date yet. But
it just feels like kind of fair. Like I get it. It like one verb could have changed it. One.
So here's the thing: is if you haven't talked to your client, so on the listing side, it is always better for you to write down the questions and be like, let me get back with you. I don't have permission to share information right now, right? And that's not rude. That's just saying, these are great questions. Let me ask. If the questions are about the house, answer it all day long. How old is the HVAC? What's the age of the roof? Like, when did they do that renovation? Like, if it's about the house, all day long. If it has anything to do with other offers or your client, you definitely need to write the question down and go ask your client how they want you to handle it. And I'm surprised sometimes how clients respond. Some clients are like, yeah, tell them whatever. Tell them we haven't gotten any offers and we're ready to negotiate.
Okay.
Right? Some people might be like, don't tell them anything. Just let them know to make an offer. which seems weird, but you don't have, that's not being not fair, but it does send a different message, you know, if agents are, I think sometimes silence is a better thing than over talking. So I think as agents, we can just learn to be silent more. That sometimes goes a long way.
Because my thing is I always want, I mean, my fiduciary duty is to my clients, but I always want to create a good dynamic with the other agent because they're the person I'm working with. Sometimes I feel like if you start off by feeling a little bit cagey about things or a little bit close to the chest, it can sometimes come off as like this agent's kind of not like working. She's not telling me a lot. She's not whatever. So just kind of the phrasing of that. I know there's a way around it, but sometimes it's easy to become conversational.
Okay,
because you're building
so
that rapport.
let's do it. Call and ask me a question. I'll be the listing agent. You're the buyer agent.
Okay, ring ring.
Hello?
Hey, I just saw your house on Banana Street. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about the house. Are your clients, why are they moving? Do you have any other offers in hand? I'd love to know everything about it. My clients love the space.
Oh, awesome. Well, one, thank you for showing it. So it sounds like your buyers are interested.
Yeah, I think they are, but I mean, I definitely need some more questions answered, but y'all did a great job.
Okay, awesome. So what kinds of questions about the house? I know we attached a lot of facts, but what other, did you or your clients have like specific questions that I could answer about the house?
Yeah, I guess they wanted to know kind of why are they moving? It's such a beautiful house. What was their motivation to sell?
Okay, so caveat, I ask every agent or every client what I'm allowed to say. Oh, this is a client that their kid is in a private school across the river, and so they've decided to move closer to the school.
Okay, great. Do you have any other offers in hand?
You know what? I have not talked to my client yet about what I can or can't say about that. Can I get back with you?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Awesome.
Okay. And then terms, if we do end up writing an offer, once I get back to my clients, what are your sellers looking for?
Yeah, so I think ideally they would love to have like a 30-day closing and then a 30-day rent back if possible. So they'll be looking for a new home. And so we'd love to have a little bit of time, but have a backup plan. So that's all the time we would need.
Okay.
That is agreeable to your client.
As far as inspection, anything like that, appraisals?
I just think whatever your client feels appropriate. I don't think they have any concerns over extra concerns or anything to share about that.
Get back to you.
Awesome. Yeah, we'd love to get your offer.
Thank you so much. And shoot me a text about the prices or offers at the end. Your clients.
Okay, I will. I'll talk with them and get back with you. Yeah, so like I'm gonna still be super friendly. It's not like I'm not telling her. It's just, and other agents, when you say that, you just know they're just being professional, right? Like that just tells you like Kim is just being professional. She's just representing her client. She's being super friendly to me and forthright, but like she just hasn't talked to her client about this part.
No, I like that. That helps a lot.
I have a question. So I got a question on was actually a personal listing. And the buying agent wanted to know what commission, like workers' commission I was offering. And I basically said I didn't want to disclose it because I felt like, I guess like in terms of the new rules in terms of disclosing commission, I just wanted to be on the cautious side and not really get that information out. But could you, and this is kind of not related exactly, but could you clarify in terms of if a buying agent asks you that? Like, I know my situation is a little different because I'm like also the seller and the owner. But like if let's say I was just representing the seller, what would be?
So here's what I'll say for the sellers. So I prepare all of my sellers. It's not written in the contract. We have nothing in writing, right? But I'm going to prepare all of them with the net sheet of like, here's what I think you could expect to see as a request. And this is the range at which I think that you may be asked. So like, would you be okay doing this? This is going to be, I think, a common request. And I think that probably when we see higher rates, it's going to be because the agents are really professional and they have value, they value what they bring to the table. And, you might want to consider, you may have to consider paying some of this. And so we work it into the net sheet. So all of my sellers are prepared at some level to pay some kind of buyer side fee. I don't know what, because it's based on the offer. So all I'll tell agents when they call is to say, like, if they ask like, hey, what is your client offering? I'm like, well, we don't have anything in writing, but they are prepared to pay a buyer side fee based on the offers that they receive. So what kind of offer you make, I would just suggest that you Put whatever
A month of
commission
what?
in there.
I
Oh,
know.
Someone's
What are
off
you
mute
doing?
again. Tara,
Shit.
Tara, you're off mute again.
You understand? I'm gonna bring out all my S's. I'm gonna create.
Okay, so,
For the wedding? Oh,
You, but
nice,
not her.
nice.
I know,
Are
Tara,
you
we
gonna
can
look and
hear,
do like
Tara,
some
we can hear you.
voiceover? Okay.
Oh, trust me,
Hey,
I've already
Tara.
been sworn.
There you go. I think she's got it. So I would just say, hey, and if it's my house that I'm selling, I would say the same thing. Like, hey, I'm prepared to pay a really good commission for great offers.
But
Send
you,
it my way. Because you're not promising it. It's going to be negotiated.
okay, but I guess my question is like, are you legally allowed to disclose that?
There's
If the
nothing in writing. There's nothing to disclose.
Okay, so you're.
Right? Like
Yeah, it's not in writing.
my
Yeah, I
listing
see.
agreement only has my fee in it. It doesn't have a buyer side fee.
Okay.
There is no buyer side fee. It's basically like saying, my client might be willing to pay for closing costs. Well, that's not written in anywhere, right? But I could say that, like, hey, if it's a lower price house, hey, they're also prepped to be able to cover some closing costs. If your client wants to include that, they're open to it. Is that kind of answering it?
Yeah, I just wanted to be extra careful because I know like that was a whole issue, with
Yeah,
that.
so just so you guys know, right, there is no, in advance with the listing, there is no buyer side commission written in anywhere. But if you're listing houses, please prepare your clients that they could be asked for that, right? And they can look at that offer by offer and determine what they want to do based on the offer and what they're going to net. Please put it in your net sheet so that they have a realistic expectation, right? Every net sheet I do is the worst case scenario. Always. With money, you can have a best case scenario, but always have a worst case scenario so that your client, if everything were going to go wrong, here's what you might net. So that they're prepared for that. It's not like a shock when things don't come back the way that they're expecting. That one offer you guys that I made that was 10,000 over the asking and waived everything, they literally came back and said, my client's not netting enough money. And I was like, well, why did they list at that price? Like they weren't prepared. They hadn't seen it, is what I'm guessing.
Yeah, this is Burnett again.
Hey, Burnett.
So two things. One, I really would like, and maybe this is Patrice's role or to see this happen. I'd like to see like a net sheet training class, a little bit more on that. The other thing I was going to add, this is related to having conversations with the other side. And in addition to communicating that with your client, because I had a case where I had a client, we went to see a house. She was interested in it. She wanted to go back and see it the next weekend. It was like an open house. We went to the open house together the first time. Second time, she wanted to go, and then she said, oh, I'll take a friend because I wasn't available to go with her that day. And she did go. And afterwards, she was telling me about the conversation with the agent. And I just happened to say, well, got to be a little careful about what you say to the other side. They could use some of that against us if we put in an offer, da 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 da. She got a little offended by that. How do you manage? I can't control what my clients say or not say, but I do communicate that, hey, you got to be careful there.
Yeah, I think anytime information might get to the other side back and forth, and it's always a challenge because it could really change people's positioning. And where I see it the most, where I think agents struggle the most is in the office when they start telling other people about their active deals. Like you guys should be very careful talking about your clients and deals you have going on or listings. Because if a listing falls out and your house is back on the market, I might show it. And now I know the whole story. So I think that's where that can be a problem with clients. That's up to them, but I think that they should keep kind of let you do negotiating, keep kind of quiet about things. But I would say as a caveat, like you guys just be careful talking about your deals. And even on our team, we have to be careful, because I could have a listing that someone on my team brings someone to. They always talking about the house, not the people. That you can never get in trouble talking about a house. When you start talking about people, like Ellen was she called and said she had questions about the house, but she didn't. She had questions about the people. And I knew it instantly. So I was like, oh, well, what questions do you have about the house? oh, well, when are your clients moving? I'm like, well, that's not about the house. And I wasn't gonna say that and be rude, but like, that's immediately, I'm like, oh, she's asking questions that not that she shouldn't ask, because every agent asks them, because maybe I might say something like, oh, well, they're getting divorced and they really need to sell. I mean, I wouldn't say that, but like, we all have clients like that, maybe are in a more desperate situation.
Yeah, good point. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about presenting. So when you're presenting the offer, this is calling the other agent, right? Paying attention to, nonverbal cues, pauses, the quality of your voice, keeping quiet once you present the offer, listening to what they say and asking questions, staying calm and relaxed, focus on customers' needs, and giving your offer the best chance. So this sounds like a really easy list of things to do, but presenting the offer is really important. And I find that oftentimes as a listing agent, an offer just shows up in my inbox. I don't even get a call. I don't even know what's even there. And not even a, hey, I'm sending you an offer. And so I would say making sure that the other agent knows the offer's coming. You've had a conversation and asked them like, hey, like, what is your client looking for? You've had that conversation, so you know if there's going to be other offers coming or not. And I think that once you do present the offer, right, you want to present it in the best light, like lead with whatever your client is doing that's like amazing. Like, hey, these people are really financially strong, right? They've already gone through underwriting. They're basically like cash. There's not going to be an appraisal. They're putting a lot down. They are coming in, a little bit under the asking price. But I'm going to start with the leader, with what's so great about them, right? So these are like, and so it kind of helps to soften that blow if I'm coming in a little bit lower. As soon as I get off the phone with the client, with the agent, I already have an email that's been written. It's going to have like a paragraph or two, kind of highlighting some things. Then I have a table below it that has all of the terms, like the price, the loan type, EMD, home inspection, appraisal. If there's anything different, like a rent back to it, anything like that, right? So I'm going to have everything kind of spelled out in that little table. So it's like a really quick glance of what's in that offer. And then it's my chance to say, if we're making a lower offer, you better believe I'm going to have a paragraph that says, hey, we know this offer may be surprising or maybe lower than what your client's expecting. And we just wanted to give you some reasoning, right? And we're going to put that reasoning in there. Hey, this has 3 older HVAC units that we know your clients maintain them super well because they've lasted 20 years. So we know that they've taken great care of them. But my client, this is their forever home. They will have to replace those probably in the near future, that would be one. If it's comps, I may say, hey, we so love this house. It's beautifully maintained. I'm always going to be, complimenting the seller on whatever is good about the house, but then also saying, but hey, on the other breath, like, we recognize that this may be something that my client's going to inherit and have to take care of. Or if it's comps, I'll say, you know what, we scoured the area and we could just not find, any houses at this price for this condition. We would be open to, like, just like Ellen said, we'd be open to getting something back. If you have other comps or things, please send them our way. But it looks like to my clients and I that, we're making a price based on what we've seen other things sell for in the area. And if there's something we've missed, please let us know, right? So it's just laying out all those details. So it's like, it's reasonable. So if I talk to an agent and I tell her all of this or him this, are they likely to tell their client? Maybe. If I put it all in writing and I send it, they're going to forward it every single time. Do you guys forward offers like that? It's your chance to talk directly to the seller or vice versa, or the buyer. I put everything in writing once I have a verbal conversation, all the details. So because I know that then I have a chance to kind of get in someone's ear. I also have a chance to get into the other side's ear to give my point of view. And they're going to have their point of view too. And I'm going to listen to that, of course, but I'm definitely going to make my case in a very friendly way. I'm not trying to create defensiveness. There's no like, well, this house was really trashed. You know, like, let's say the house needs a complete paint and all new like carpeting or flooring. I'll just say, hey, you know, my client loves this floor plan, this neighborhood, it's just so cute. And, you know, but one of the things my client was looking at was that they probably would need to redo the carpeting and some fresh paint, which they are so happy to do. But we had, you know, we know that's gonna cost about 15,000, so we adjusted the price based on that. Now, the seller doesn't have to agree to that, they could be like, oh, we already adjusted for it. But it's reasonable, it makes sense. And so I think when you present an offer, think of it that way, right? Like you have to think like the other side. How are they going to receive this information? And if it's someone's home, they probably love it, right? It's probably their baby. They don't want to hear you bad mouthing it or talking bad about it. So remember that this is not just like selling something. This is a personal thing that people are selling. It's a place that they've loved and they've lived in. And so it's kind of remembering that too when you present it.
Do you do that with every offer? You just, the second you get it towards the seller?
Yes, I do. I do, unless it's something, because I think that it not only is not just the offer, it is how the agent presents it. And some agents present offers in a really organized, very precise way. And a lot of my clients notice that. And they're like, wow, we loved how this agent communicated. And I'm like, yeah, me too. And so, yeah, it's like the whole package. So when you're doing a deal, you're not just selling the house as a seller to the buyer, you're also working with that agent too that's attached to them. So like the agents matter too, and how they're communicating. And that's something that I will pass on to my client, whether I'm supposed to or not. Like if it's an agent that is not being communicative and I can't get hold of them, like Mindy was saying with one of hers, like, I'll pass that on. Like, hey, I can't get hold of this agent. They're just really not getting back with me. I have to, you know, or if it's an agent that I know is like a more of a win-lose agent, I'll say that. Or if it's someone I've worked with before and I'm like, you know what, this agent I've worked with before and they really did their job well. Like, you know, I'm not saying everything will be perfect, but they're a good professional agent that works hard. So I feel like that, you know, that they'll do their part of it. What are some other things? Do you guys have any other like best practices when you're presenting your offer that you could share with the group, like things that you do that you feel like help you to stand out or to kind of appear more professional, presenting your offer in the best light?
Maybe keeping like any attached documents all in one, yeah, instead of like a bunch of attachments.
Everyone has a different way of liking it. Some people like it all attached, some don't. I honestly have gotten to where I just forward the Authentic sign because there's all one document that's in the center, which they can click on, and then all the individual documents are below. So no matter which way they like it, it comes both ways. Yeah. And then I attach, you know, the pre-approval letter, but I agree. Like sending a full offer. When someone sends me like, oh, here's the offer. Oh, let me send you another email with the pre-qualification letter. Oh, here's another email. I forgot to attach the residential property disclosure. Now I've got 3 emails, and if it's multiple offers, I'm like, oh my goodness, I got to put all those pieces together. So it is nice if it's all together and organized.
When we talked the other day in John Pace's class about doing a synopsis, like a highlight reel, and you get so many that just don't.
Yeah, I just
Like,
have
I forward you an offer.
I mean, you guys, I just have a template. I have tons of template emails. So there is one for an offer, and it just has a little table in it that I can just fill in all the numbers and I can just write a paragraph above it. Super simple. And if there is something that the client loves about the house or that is said about the house that I feel like will go a little extra, I'll put that in there. Like, hey, and I'm careful here because you're not trying to break any like fair housing laws, but I will just say, hey, my client really appreciated this back deck and they can really imagine themselves sitting there and having their coffee in the morning and they're just really excited. You know, so there can be some like a private touch that you can add the things to, I think. Just be careful there.
So funny, like the difference between John's class and yours, like you're far more relational, you know, and John is a dude. And it's always like, we were talking about some of the things and he was like, I would read that. And I'm like, oh, I always write it. You know, it's so funny, the difference.
Yeah, but here's the thing is you don't know the other side.
Exactly.
You don't know how they're going to receive it. So I'm going to be really professional. I'm going to have all the numbers. I'm going to have the offer filled out properly. I cannot tell you how many times I'll make an offer and it gets accepted and they're like, you're the only person who filled it out correctly. Mm-hmm. Fill out your offers correctly. Like
it just goes to show like try to build any rapport you can with the other side, just to understand what, because I mean, it sounds like John would be like, I'm gonna put it in the spreadsheet, so it's like, okay,
Yeah, I do too. I put mine in a spreadsheet too, but my client's still gonna get the offer. They have to
Yeah.
still get the offer.
Yeah.
So like, I guess I could take the offers out of the emails, but as I'm getting them, if there are multiple offers, I'm gonna send them to them immediately. Like I send them every offer immediately and then I'm like, let's talk. When you have time, let's sit down, let's talk through this offer. But I'm gonna hit on all of them. Like a lot of my clients are like CEOs, CFOs, like they're very business focused, they're very direct, and they're very precise. Right? So like I'm relational, but I don't know, maybe the other clients are gonna be more like that. So I just try to hit all, I'm gonna just try to take care of everybody. I'm gonna be super organized, I'm gonna have my numbers together, I'm gonna be reasonable, I'm gonna be friendly, like, I don't know who the other side is, but like, I'll figure it out and I'll just throw everything at them until I figure out what's the best. If that makes sense. All right, anybody from online want to add anything or have a question? All right, I love it. We're just covering everything so well. No questions. All right, so this is the position. So once you've made the offer, right, and we've talked about a position a little bit because I think the position has a little bit to do with like when you make an offer, like giving your point of view. Like, how are you positioning the offer that you've made, right? Like, are you showing it in the best light? And so acknowledge and confirm some common ground with them, ask what and how questions, know that positioning is a process and know when to walk away. So really important. You don't know when to walk away. Who does know when to walk away? Your client. Yeah. Have you guys ever had a situation where you've negotiated, and you're just like, you just can't make it work? Sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes you just have to walk away and it's heartbreaking, but you just do, right? Again, this is your client's decision. And I think this is where we have to keep our emotions out of it. It's so hard. Does anyone have a situation where their emotions maybe got the best of them? I have a bunch of these deals. Anybody have them? And one where they're just like, man, I know my emotions just took over and kind of affected the deal or affected my buyers or my sellers. I'm gonna let Henry, he hasn't talked much because he's helping me. He's like my showing assistant right now. So we have a client that's frustrating. How is that affecting you, being able to talk with him?
It's just difficult when you're talking to someone who doesn't have their priorities set straight, and it's clearly obvious to everyone but themselves. And just knowing what you can and can't say to them because it's their decision, they're the one buying the house, but they're prioritizing things that should not really matter when you're purchasing a home. Like, will he be able to have a dartboard in his garage attached? And if it doesn't, then he will not buy this house.
Oh,
So like stuff like that, where you're just like, you want to pull your hair out when you're talking to them, but you can't. Just learning patience. So yeah, that's been an experience.
so how many of you guys have had a client? Now, maybe not exactly like that, but like where you just literally feel like we're just not getting anywhere, right? And I always think when you feel like you're not getting somewhere with a client, my number one thing I always come back to is motivation. Like motivation clears up all these problems. When clients are not motivated, there's a lot of problems. When they're motivated, the problems kind of disappear. So getting back to people's motivation and putting that motivation in front of them, it was something that was ground into my head when I started real estate. I didn't quite get how important it was. But if you don't understand why your client is making a move or buying a house, you will not, it's hard to help them. Some people are motivated on their own and they'll just move forward anyways, but most people you have to keep reminding them, right? And help to keep, and it's that using that wisdom, right? To like narrow down, asking the right questions, and kind of being able to move them forward. And it's hard because if you get frustrated, for me, if I get frustrated, I tend to just kind of want to walk away a little bit, not ask questions, not be curious, because I'm like, irritated or annoyed, just because we all have our own emotions, right? And so real estate will bring out the worst emotions in all of us. There's other agents who are just respectful, who are rude, It happens, right? There's clients who get really, upset, or emotional. I find the biggest thing for my clients is they get stuck in negotiating on like that. I don't know who mentioned earlier, like, I want to win. I don't, yeah, right. And it's like something personal. It's like, you don't even know this person. They're nothing to do with this house. Like, as soon as they move out, you're never going to see them again. Like, they're not part of this. Like, do you want this house? Like, the people don't come with it. So ignore them, ignore the other agent who's maybe being difficult. Like, it doesn't matter. You'll never see them again. Do you want this house? But it gets really hard because emotions get high. So one of our jobs is to keep emotion down. So we have to kind of always, and it's really hard when we're negotiating and someone brings us something that doesn't seem fair. Like, I'm wondering how the listing agent felt when Mindy's clients said, hey, we want you just to give us a credit out of nowhere, right? So that listing agent could have been like, they can't ask you for this and you should just say no. She could have, or he could have advised them, however, or they could have been calm and been like, this is a request. Here's how you can respond to it, right? So there's a different way to respond. And sometimes I think as agents, we get stuck on what's fair. And if something doesn't seem fair, we can kind of like tip the scales with our clients. So just be careful when things do come across. Like, it's your job to explain what their options are, not to bring your own emotions or your own opinion into like what should happen.
You're far more established, so I don't know if this happens to you anymore, but where agents are just like very rude to you.
Yes, there's some agents that just, they feel like they need to be defensive. They feel like the way to win is to kind of like be secretive, not say very much, be a little bit kind of like, sometimes they're just not knowledgeable. I find a lot of times that's what's behind it.
But I mean, like, yell at you. Do you still get that? Do you still get agents
Yes.
that want to raise their voice and
Yes.
scream and yell?
They do.
I mean, I find I have ways to deal with it. I don't know if it's right or not, but I also don't yell back after. But like, how do you manage that now?
Yeah, so if someone is like really yelling, I mean, it's just a one-time thing because they're really hot.
Yeah.
I'll
Usually
just
it is
be like,
that.
usually I just will restate whatever it is. Like, they're like, you can't ask for this and how dare you, blah, whatever. And I'll be like, so when they're done yelling, I'm like, I can tell you're really upset about this, but my client has the right to ask for this. This is what they're asking for. I'm going to send you the paperwork. Okay. And I just restate it again really calmly. Typically, I have one agent who did that to me recently, called me back the next day. He's like, hey, I want to apologize. I was really out of line.
I had one just do that too, calling back and apologize.
Yeah, and I'm like, no big deal. Like, we all have a bad day, right?
It
I mean,
happens,
I wouldn't lose it like that with someone, but like he did, he apologized. I've had another agent that like repeatedly did it to me. And after like the third time, where he wouldn't even let me speak at all, I just emailed him and said, I will no longer be answering your phone calls, not because I don't want to make this deal work. I do, but our conversations aren't productive on the phone. And so we're going to just move to email only to communicate. That was, and I think some agents do try to bully people as a way to negotiate. Like, let me bully them into like this. And I think that's, again, you have to really know the contract and just stick to the facts.
Did you turn around and explain to your, so let's say like your buyer clients, kind of the behavior of the agent to understand the tone?
Yeah,
Because
sometimes
sometimes I never am sure, like, do I keep that out of it? But I also need them to understand. I want them to understand part of it because I do think it impacts the deal.
it does.
But sometimes there have been times where I thought I have overshared there in an effort to be helpful. And then I thought I just stressed my clients out. When I'm not impacted by it here, but I did want them to know the tone of the transaction was changing from a negotiation point. And then I thought, oh God, now they might know too much.
So I think sometimes we will overshare. And if our client starts to get stressed, that can affect their negotiating power once they get stressed, right? Because it makes them feel uncertain. So I think there's a fine line between honesty and disclosing things. For instance, I'll tell you guys, I had a client make an offer recently, and then the agent said, hey, we're going to be getting another offer. It's the next door neighbor's son who wants to live right next door to his parents. Well, I actually told my client that. I don't know why. I don't hardly ever disclose that. And then he's like, well, now I don't want to buy this house because my neighbors will hate me that I got the house and their son didn't.
Right. I would have never thought of it from that perspective.
No.
Ever. But then it's like, oh.
Right? And I was like, you just never know how information is gonna come across, which is always better for us to ask. So like, this is so true when we walk into a house. If you walk into a house and go, well, this kitchen's dated, they may be like, this is the most gorgeous kitchen I've ever seen. But once you say something, it's like in their head. So like, just be very cautious on what you do say, talking less, listening more. And I think there's just always a fine line. If I have an agent that I feel like is a win-lose, I'll say that at the beginning. I'll say, hey, just gonna remind you this, it may feel this way. We'll still hold our ground. But like, if you really want this house and you're not willing to walk away, you might get stuck to a spot where you have to accept something you don't, as long as you're okay with it. So I did negotiate one like that recently, and they still felt like, even though that we didn't get quite what they wanted, they were like, we're still okay with it. I'm like, great.
Yeah, that's where your knowledge, I just don't have that yet of like every single agent's intricacies, because I've worked with all of them.
You'll figure it out pretty quick. Yeah. All right. All right, so we've talked through some different, are there any like, so talking about how we like position, do you guys have any scenarios or anything that's kind of happened to you recently where you feel like, okay, once we started negotiating, things went really south and I wish something different had happened? Does anyone have anything where maybe something went really well and you feel like, oh, this is a great tip to share with the group?
I had a weird one that it's not a great tip. So it was the seller was selling without an agent, or it was one of those like MLS listing only, right? So we were having to meet with the seller every time. He didn't do a lockbox. He was there every time we came to the house.
So like a for sale by owner,
Like a for sale by owner. So because there's no other agent, I'm being nice to him on purpose, right? Like I'm trying to be the middleman with my clients, and I'm smoothing things over. And my clients were like, "You're being too nice to him." And so like every time we were in the house, he was with us, and so I was trying to chit chat with him so they could go around the house without him hovering. And they were like, "You're just chit chatting with him too much." And I'm like, "I'm trying to help you so he's not in your face the whole time. Like I'm trying to be nice. If you had an agent, we would be the buffers for you two, you know." But they were like, you're too nice to him. He is the adversary. I'm like, ew, no.
Yeah, that sounds like a good opportunity to have a conversation with your client.
Right.
About, hey, if there's no agent involved, I will be the only agent.
Yeah.
And, yeah, just explaining what had happened. And I always ask them, how would you like me to do, what would you like for me to do next?
Right.
How would you like for me to, I think a lot of people do come into real estate deals thinking it's going to be adversarial. It doesn't have to be for both parties to get what they want. Sometimes it is, but it doesn't have to be, right? Both parties can get what they want. They can walk away and both can be happy. Win-win.
Your plans all sound scary.
I mean, these were random.
Scary, you picking up these people.
I know that client, it was my biggest sale ever. It was like close to 1.5. And they literally found me online. And she had someone else, a very, very well-known agent, list her home that had me represent them on the buy side. I'm like, why are you doing that? No idea. Crazy there. And it's probably because they knew they were going to be super high maintenance on the buy side. And they didn't want to mess up that relationship. And he was like the listing specialist in the neighborhood. So of course they're listing with him.
It's really important to understand. So not everyone has a win-win mentality. Some buyers are very much like, I want to get the best deal possible. And that's going to be really important to me. And you need to step up and be that agent that they need. Like you need to find out what's really important to them. And what I hear from them is that, we're not as relational. We want a really, a bulldog on negotiating, which my guess is you can do. You could still explain to them what you were doing. You're like, hey, It might look like I'm playing nice, but this was strategic on my part so that you could have time to walk around, that he didn't bug you.
Yeah.
And, but it is something to understand like what your client's values are on that and to try to match that for them. And not that I like a win-lose, but I do have, like, I can negotiate a really hard deal if I need to, if my clients are wanting to really, kind of like toe the line, so to speak. Now, It's not about my negotiating skills when that happens. And if we get a really amazing deal, that has more to do with the seller's motivation. If the sellers are super motivated, and I've got buyers who are making a low offer and really coming at them and they like and they take it, that's because they're really motivated. It's not that I had great negotiating skills.
Right.
So it's a lot to do with the other side. It's a lot to do with the other side, right? I also think too that, like I had one instance where, and this was so interesting. I was with another really experienced agent. My client's roof was old and had to be replaced. And my client was like, I'm not replacing it while we live here. And it wasn't really old. It was a cedar roof that was going to need to be replaced, right? So it was still like, okay, but like was obviously end of its lifespan. And when my client finally said, listen, we're not going to put a whole new roof on here. We've already given them enough others. But my client decided that they would pay like, I forget, an X amount, right? And the agent was still just stuck on it. It has to be the full price. It has to be this full thing. So I finally sent her a message and I just said, I want to put this in perspective. My client is paying this X amount, which is 75% of the cost of a brand new roof and will never live in the home and enjoy the benefits of that, as well as everything else we've negotiated for you. So is your client not willing to pay, that's how much of it that we're paying for, 75%. And she messaged me afterwards and she said, when you put it in those terms, that helps my client out to see it in a different light and they're going to accept it. So sometimes it's like coming at a problem from a different angle and helping people to see it a little differently. And then they go, oh, okay, well, that's better than we thought. Like that really is in our favor. That is a great deal. So anything you can do to kind of like reposition how something is presented can sometimes help. Anybody else have any other ahas? You guys didn't learn anything? All right, let's talk about the negotiating tips then. All right, so goes without saying, be professional, right? Show up, do what you say you're going to do. No bad language, right? Like everything's in writing once you make a phone call. You're polite. Keep your goal in mind, which is knowing what your client's goal is, right? Like always keep that in mind. Like, are they trying to get the best price possible or do they really want this house no matter what? Like you need to know that. So like that's something what we're making. If my clients want to negotiate and they're making a low offer, I'm like, great. If you don't get the house for this price, are you okay? Like, do you want this house? And so like, if I make a low offer on something and the seller walks away and doesn't want to deal with us ever again, would you be okay with that? So I have to ask my clients these hard questions, right? So that I know. Then they're like, oh my gosh, we'd be devastated. We really want this house. We just want to see if we can get it for a better price. I'm like, okay, great. Right. So that, so if I do that, like I just made an offer, a much lower offer on a house. And my client said, hey, we really want this house. We just want it for a little bit less. And I was like, okay, so if I make this low offer, I don't want to offend them, but can I tell the other agent that you're open to negotiate? They were like, yes, that was perfect. We want them to know we're open to negotiation. We don't want them to not come back to us. Right. So I got their permission to be able to share that. Now I wouldn't have shared that otherwise. Like if I'm making a low offer for someone who like wants to toe the line, they're going to be like, make this low offer and say nothing else. I'm like, great, got it. And I'm not going to say anything else. And I'm definitely not going to say anything else. Do not go against your client's wishes. Right? You are an extension of them. You are representing them. Even if it doesn't seem fair to you, right? Like you are representing them. Pay attention to your communication, the tone, how you're talking to people. Continually refer to your client's motivation when speaking to them, which we talked about this a minute ago, right? So when I have someone who continuously doesn't like a house or is continuing saying no to houses, I'm going to be like, hey, you know how you guys are really packed in at your house right now? How's that going? For every house that they ignore, and I'm not helping them solve their problem. They're still continuing with the same old problem, right? Oh, you're renting right now. You're throwing your money away, right? We're trying to find something so that you don't. You put your money into something. So if you know that motivation, keep bringing it up in the conversations, right? Has that changed when they're just like, oh, we just can't find anything? Well, let's go back to the basics of why they're making a purchase or why they're selling. Like if you have a seller whose home is sitting on the market, not selling, it's like, hey, we're not getting any offers. We're not getting any showings. I know you guys want to sell and I want to sell for the top price. But maybe you have to have that hard conversation and negotiate with them. Like I just got a price reduction on a house, which it breaks my heart when I price a home wrong to start, but it happens, right? We price based on previous sales. We hit the market, and within a week of hitting the market, like 10 of their homes hit the market, price like almost 40,000 less. I was like, holy moly, this market just shifted really fast downward. But I could just share that with my clients and say, hey, this is hard news to tell you, but like, here's what's hit the market since we've been on the market. These are all better priced than you, and the same house. Like you guys are going to have to adjust to kind of beat this competition. And so they did, because I showed them the facts, and it's just a hard conversation. I did have to negotiate with them on it. They didn't quite come down exactly where I wanted, but they did come down. Don't reveal too much. Listen more than you talk. Keep your client's motivation close to your chest, as in like close to your chest, as in like a secret. And that is why when people ask, why are they moving? That's about motivation. And so like you do want to have permission and have something simple, right? Something simple that you say. Doesn't need to be their full story. And then don't be attached to outcome. So hard. Like these are like our babies that we're helping, right? Like they're like my family. Like when a house doesn't sell or it sits on the market, I know that client situation. Like I don't want that. I know buyers who are desperate to find a home and start their new life at a new home. I hate not being able to find that house for them. So it's so hard not to be attached to the outcome. But it's important to kind of, when I find myself getting really worked up over a deal and really upset about it, like I'm not sleeping at night. Anyone ever had that? You think about a deal a little too much, or you're thinking about a client a little too much. That's usually where I know I need to start detaching, and I need to start being a little bit more just focused on the facts with them and getting back to the basics of the facts with them, because I've gotten too wound up in it. And that happens. I've been doing this forever. I still do it. Like we're none of us are immune. We're human. Anything on here that you guys would add for negotiating tips, or anything that like sticks out to you? That's a very quiet one. All right. Oh, you guys can do feedback. Have you guys been doing these feedbacks? No? We don't.
Oh, I just haven't done it.
Oh, have you guys been doing them?
Yes.
Okay, so if you guys want to do these, you're welcome to. And I don't even know if I'm even in there as an instructor or not, but you guys are welcome to grab that. This is super helpful for us. I feel like, you know, none of us are like necessarily like experienced trainers. We're just trying to kind of, I think everyone that's here is just kind of sharing from their heart on how they run their business, and kind of hopefully you guys get a good flavor from hearing from all the different agents on like how they are running their business. All right. KW Cares. You guys aren't doing this. This is a great way, even just to donate like $5 on every deal. There's a little drop down that you can use. You can do the KW Cares or the Richmond West KW Cares as well. And it can just come directly out of any closings that you have, which is a great way to just give back to our community. There we go. What about some final aha? So I'm really curious what you guys have learned today. I'd love to hear at least from everyone, like just one thing that you'll take away from today, or something that like really stuck with you. Maybe it was just a reminder of something you already knew even.
I think just remembering to stay professional when maybe other agents ask you questions, stuff you can't say about your own client, like some good ways to get around not answering the question, but not being rude at the same time. Like you did a good job of giving some options there.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Mine's, yeah, a way to be relational, but still hold your negotiating power and not break.
Yes, I love it.
Or an ethical line or whatever.
Yeah. Good.
And your reminder of getting permission of like what you can say.
Absolutely. That's for both sides. When you're presenting an offer, ask the buyers, what can I say? What do you want me to share? Like, how do you, yeah, we strategize about that. How we're going to how I'm going to present the offer.
This is James. My haha was a reminder of the casual rapport conversation that really stuck with me, only because of the uncertainty. The gentleman kind of mentioned it, but how easily it could put you at a disadvantage. And the fear of the fines, having a stain on your reputation, and just the process of quantifying their equitable loss in those types of situations. So just really stuck out for me to be more mindful of the conversations that you have.
I think the easiest rule for that too, James, is like questions about the house all day long, answer them. Questions about the people, I would just be like, you know what, let me get back with you on that. That's a great question. What other questions you have like that?
Correct, which you
And
didn't.
then go to your seller or go to your buyer and ask, and then go back and have those answers that are approved. So house questions, answer all day long. People questions, go back and ask.
I think I learned, kind of like a reminder of, kind of like what you said too, like you're really a problem solver. And, sometimes if your client is getting frustrated because they can't find the perfect house, you have to kind of show them, well, here's what's out there that will meet your budget, kind of see maybe they have their expectations are too high and kind of rework that. I think that's a good reminder.
Yeah, if ever we have a client that after like 6 months, we're just like banging our head against the wall, we have and sometimes even sooner, like 3 months in, we kind of have this like reset conversation that we'll have with clients to be like, okay, let's start over. This isn't working, right? Like, you're not, I feel unsuccessful. I'm not showing you the houses that you want. You're not liking things. So let's start over. And let's like, because sometimes by then they've learned something and maybe their criteria maybe has changed a little bit. You guys have that? I feel like buyers' criteria changes drastically as they start looking at houses. What becomes important, what's not important. It can really change over time.
I feel like when I do that too, it's, I'm kind of establishing a boundary too. Like, I'm not here for you to just like put on a leash and run around everywhere. Like, without saying that, you're kind of establishing a boundary, a little bit of like, I don't think, it doesn't feel like maybe I'm serving you in this way. Like, what do we need to change? But you're also kind of, you're saying it without saying it, like, hey, I feel like we're looking at a lot of things not working, but.
Yeah, you don't want to say, stop wasting my time.
You don't want to say stop wasting my time, but it is very implied in that conversation.
Yeah.
That, I feel like I'm kind of running you around, not, it is implied that.
Yeah, I mean, if you are driving, 45 minutes to show someone a house and they drive by the house and go, oh, I don't like this area. Well, they could have figured that out on their own. They don't need you, right? So like, there's some easy solutions to some things too. Like, we're like, hey, maybe you just start driving through these areas, see if it's still acceptable to you. Let's go to some of the open houses. Like, there are some ways that you can like save your time with people that are really like, just not 100% that they're looking at the right homes yet. Yeah, that's good. How about the rest of you? Anybody else online?
I would say.
Well, for me, it's asking more questions and listening more, talking less.
Yeah, us agents like to talk. Yeah, I'm always surprised too when I ask questions what the answers are. They're way different than I expect. Sometimes I'm really off with my clients. Like, I think we know, but if you're in indecision over what someone thinks about something, just keep asking questions. I love that. Riley?
I would say a mixture of everything. It's been helpful, and the reminders too. Yeah, I think everyone feels more valued too when you listen more and talk less. In every conversation, even outside of real estate. But I think also the point that you brought up was how you have all these people that are so informed because of the internet, so they think they know it all. And as a newer agent too, it's difficult because it's like, okay, well they know a lot that I'm still trying to learn, and being able to remind them of the value that you bring as an agent in that situation and the wisdom that you still bring, even if I am new. I have all these resources that was just another thing for me. I know I'm newer, and so meeting people that have so much information is really tough because I'm like, wow, I knew that and I didn't. So that sometimes is a little tough. But yeah, just a reminder that like to kind of show that you do have wisdom and you do have experience that they may not see, and you can forewarn things that they just have no idea that might come in the process.
Yeah. People can read all they want about buying and selling houses, and it just never goes the way you read about, right? Like, all that information doesn't help to match people with the house. So there's just so many intricacies. I think you're so right, like that experience. And I always think of myself as like a little matchmaker, kind of like matching people with the right houses and the right situation. Like they can know what they're looking for, doesn't mean they're going to be able to find it. Or unforeseen things that they don't know about, and walking through a house. That's one thing I will say. If you guys don't understand how a house is built and put together and the components and parts of a home, like start educating yourself on that. That is a really huge value you can bring to the table. Learn about that. I could walk into a house now and I can tell you every upgrade a client's added, every contractor grade thing that's in there, like the major systems. Not that I can tell all the defects, but I can tell a lot by walking through a house, the condition of the home and what's happening in there. And that by no means is it like take the place of an inspection, but it does help when we're writing an offer on like all those items.
Did you educate yourself from working with a lot of builders?
I did a I did a GRI course a long time ago, which I don't know if they even still offer it, a Graduate Real Estate Institute, and they had an entire course on home building. And it basically taught you how homes are built from start to finish, and it walked through everything. I also think doing a lot of new construction deals, when you start to see how the homes are constructed, the upgrades, the extras, all the things that go into a house, you start to know what the dollar amounts are for each of those things. Like woodworking, extra lighting, things you just wouldn't think about. Like it's obvious when cabinetry is really nice or a countertop is expensive, but like how much does it cost to add a screen porch sunroom to a house? You guys know? It's like $20,000 at a builder, 22,000. Give or take. If you add it on after the fact, it's probably going to cost you more. So knowing some of these things, when someone has like a 5-piece bathroom, or they've got a big walk-in shower, if they have a frameless door, that's $2,500. Like I just had, like you just doing those things. So if you don't know a lot about new construction, like go in and meet with some site agents and walk through some of their pricing. And it does help you see when you walk into houses, like you don't know the exact price, but I can say, like if someone's got a full pull-out or soft close drawer, like what's the difference between that and one that's nailed? Like the ones that are nailed aren't all wood. They're not as sturdy. So it's not just that they're a full pull out or a soft close. It's actually the construction of them isn't as high quality. So just, I mean, those are all things that you just kind of learn as you go. But, when you have spare time, like go talk to new construction people, figure out some of these things, have them walk you through what some of those differences are. And then the home inspector, you guys follow your home inspector around, ask him tons of questions. That's what Henry's doing. He's coming to every inspection I have, and he's followed every inspector around, and they're teaching him and they're telling him about what they're doing and what they're seeing. So you can get more knowledgeable about just houses in general. All right, what other ahas? Sorry, I'm getting on my soapbox there. Sorry about that.
I love it. Stay up there.
Any other ahas?
No aha, Kim, but you did mention Henry. I was wondering who is Henry.
Oh, he's a new agent on my team and also my son. So he's the ropes.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Yeah, so as a new agent, like he'll go with me to showings and things. And he's like, oh my gosh, there's no way I would know any of the things that you just said to your client. So like sometimes you don't even know as an agent, like what you know and don't know. So like trying to help him build his knowledge base, which I think knowledge does help us feel a little bit more confident. So that is a great way. If you ever see a course like a Dusty Boots tour, do one of those where you can see the hard hat tours, where that's like they're really teaching you how the house is constructed. Really interesting. Anything else?
I had a question for you. You had said at one point, like, I would love to hear, I know you represent builders a lot. And you had said that there's some negotiation with builders.
Yes.
I'd love to hear more about that.
So if you guys go online and look up stats, there's a way to look up just new construction versus resale. And one of the things that you're going to find is that last year, resale inventory did this, new construction inventory did this. So a ton more inventory. We also have a bunch of big national builders that have pushed into our market. So Lennar, D.R. Horton's been here for like almost 7 or 8 years now, but they're picking up more market share. Richmond Richmond Home is now pushed into our market. Mungo Homes, Mungo Homes is Craftmaster, but a big national brand. So when you get these big national brands like that, like Ryan Homes is another big national brand that's been here. What you get with these big national brands is they own their own title and they own their own mortgage. And the difference with that is that they're so large that they're buying those loans in advance, so they can buy a 3.99. They can buy a 4.99, a 5.75, right? Rates that your lender can't offer. So they're able to provide those kinds of rates. They're able to offer, I'm seeing a lot of them offer percentages back. So I have clients who just bought a DR Horton in Harper's Mill and they got 6%. They got 3% to buy the rate down. So they have a 5.75 rate, conventional loan. This house is like almost 700, so like around 680. They're paying a 3% buyer side commission, which is unheard of for new construction. And my clients also got 3% in closing costs. And they didn't want to come down on the price. They're rarely going to come down on the price. So for a builder, don't ask for a price reduction. I mean, well, I'm not going to say that in general. You can, but they want to keep that price high advertised. Where they'll negotiate is design center credits. So get more at design. Or if it's already built, ask for something like my client for DR Horton was like, they got blind, which that's like a $2,000 expense, right? So they just got the faux wood blinds for the whole house for every window. That's what there was not really a lot of other negotiating going on.
And does that all really need to happen before you kind of go under contract? Like how much of that negotiating is happening once you're under contract?
So the way it works for a builder is that the site agent can typically say to you, like you could say, like for the DR Horton one, we sat there with the site agent and my client was like, can I get a better price? They were like, it won't get approved. We already know it won't. Like, they're not going to come down. It's a new neighborhood. It was a new neighborhood in Harper's Mill that just opened the backside. And like, these are our price leaders. We're not coming down on the pricing. So they were pretty transparent. And they were already giving them the 6%. So they were like, well, like, what else could we get? And the site agent's like, you want some mini blinds? Like someone else got those. We probably could throw those in. My client was like, yes, that would make me happy. Put those in. So the contract, when you're working with a builder, you write the contract in that moment. It doesn't get signed by corporate for several days later. So sometimes things you put in that contract might come back unsigned or it might get changed. So another deal I negotiated recently was with the Eagle. It was a 2/2. She made a full price offer on it. So she paid full price. And I said, listen, I think we can get some extras here. They were offering 10,000 in closing, but my client did not want to use their lender. She'd been with this lender for like 5 years. We've been helping her kind of work towards buying her home. So we went to the lender and we said, hey, what can you do? They want to use you. The lender was like, we'll give you 3,000. So we went back to Eagle. We asked them for 7 to make up for the 10. And then we also asked for 15,000 in closing. And they came back and just said, hey, we'll give you 10,000 in closing, which is really what my client wanted. We're not 10,000 closing, but we'll give you 10,000 at the design center. So she got to go into the design center. She got to add extra fans. She added some blinds. She added a tile black backsplash to the house. So there's some extra things that she wanted to put in. And then they gave her, they ended up giving her the full closing costs. And they came back at first and they said, hey, we're not going to give you the full closing. We're only going to give you the 5. And I just said, I can't remember exactly. They came back and offered less than what we asked for. And I told my client, I'm like, go ahead and push, make them put it in the offer the full amount you want. And the agent said, hey, my sales manager already said no. And I was like, that's okay, just put it in. So she put it in and they signed it.
They just didn't read it again.
They read it.
Because I guess.
No, they did read it. They did read it, but they were just like, fine, we'll take it. Because it's an offer, right? It's in writing.
Right.
It's like, do you want to split hairs over a couple $1,000s or not? So sometimes at builders, I feel like asking for the closing costs and asking for the design center credits, they can bury that cost. And it's still a value to your client.
Okay, that's a big aha for me. Because
That
new
huge?
construction, usually they just tell you, no, we can't do anything. So, okay, good information. Thank you.
Yeah. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes the site agents kind of know, but they also work for the builder. So like,
Yeah.
And it just depends. It depends on how fast they're selling. It depends on how much inventory is still left. If they're just starting and they really want to get sales going, they might be more inclined. If it's the last house, and it's hot market, I mean, it's again, just like resale, right? Like how much do they want to sell it?
So I had another thing, because my husband and I are looking to buy a house with Eagle right now, potentially, maybe. But
Oh, we should talk.
I
sell a ton. I have 3 Eagle homes under contract right now. Like, just a lot of my clients just love their product.
They do. That's good to know. But we're going through so much negotiation right now. And we were able to bump down the land a little bit to the initial purchase of the land, but not the house. They're like you said, they're so stuck on that price of the house.
So why would that be as a builder though, you guys? This makes sense. You got to think like the builder. They do not want that price advertised to everyone else because then they're gonna have to lower it to every other buyer. They're not gonna do it. Like, that's just gonna kill them.
But it's like everything else around it. You can.
Yeah, get some design center credits, ask for more in closing costs, right? They can bury those costs. Nobody sees the design center. The other thing about the design center costs is that, right? So if you as a consumer went and had to pay for $5,000 worth of goods to have somebody install it in your home and do the work, it doesn't cost Eagle that much, right? Because they're going to have an upcharge on all their product. Their workmanship it's going to cost them less to install it than it would us as a layperson. So it's a great way for them because they're offering you something that you're getting as a value and it's not costing them quite as much too. I mean, if you guys want to work a good deal, I would say some of these newer, bigger companies that are pushing into the market now, they want market share. They want to sell their houses. I've seen Lennar sell their houses for 30, 40, 50,000 less.
I never even heard of them. Where are they?
They're in Harper's Mill.
Lennar. Okay.
They're new to our market. They're taking a loss on their houses right now because they want to push into this market and they're so profitable in other parts of the country. They can take a loss here now just to get established. So you can look at some things like that to position. Now I would, double check the quality and make sure it's still what your clients want. But I know a lot of people who don't like will talk badly or don't like Ryan Homes. Ryan Homes is super affordable and they offer usually a good amount of incentives. Main Street Homes right now, I don't know if they're still offering it, but they've been offering 4% any way you want it, 4% off the price, 4% in design or in closing costs. That's a big incentive.
One where it was, one of these main builders you mentioned, and it was a finished home and they were just wanting to move it.
That's the best place to negotiate.
Right. And so we got all the credits, but without using their people. Because my people liked their lender.
Yeah.
And the lender gave them a much better deal. And then we came off price too. And then I felt bad because Allie one day was running comps and mine popped in there and she called me and was like, how did you get, what in the world's that? You're killing and I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like it was ready to go. So and they were looking to move it.
Sometimes you can come down on price. I'm just saying like in general, like it has to be the right situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a builder.
And they were just looking to get rid of it. Right. Like,
yeah.
And they had one next door. It had fallen out or something. And so they wanted ours to pen. So then they would make that one active because it had just fallen out from.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they were happy to move it.
But yeah. Well, it's almost like 11:30. I don't know how long you guys are supposed to go. The only thing that I have still left in mind was talking about the daily success system, which I don't know if you guys talk about that at every one of these or not, but I think I'm going to end here so you guys can, it's been 2.5 hours. That's a long time for a training call. You guys have been so patient and attentive.
What's the daily success? Is that the 5-10?
Yes. Yeah. It's a daily success system. So for those of you guys who are brand new agents, make sure you're following that, right? Having conversations, adding contacts to your database, reviewing homes, script practicing, writing notes, right? All those basics that help you get in front of clients, get your name out. All right. I'll hang around for a few more minutes if anybody has any questions. Anybody online, thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
This was awesome.
Question, how do you, I want to